It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. Wow. All I can say is, wow. This is going to be an interesting show. Our old friend Alex Wilhelm is here. He, of course, used to be at TechCrunch. He now has his own excellent newsletter. And he's a regular on This Week in Startups, hosted by our other guest, Jason Calacanis. It is a This Week in Startups takeover. We have lots to talk about, starting off with how you like your boy now.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT. This Week in Tech, episode 1026, recorded April 6th, 2025. I know of BigBalls. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, the show where we get together and talk about the week's tech news, and there is some news this week. And I thought, wow, I had an idea. I had a crazy thought that we do a This Week in Startups takeover.
Oh.
How do you like that? Jason Calacanis is here, the man in charge of Twists and, of course, the now number one podcast in the world, it's close to it, All In podcast.
Okay, yeah.
It's good to see you, Jason.
It's great to see you, Leo. Thank you
for having me back. It's been a long time.
Far too long.
Jason thinks he's at a rally. He's got an American flag and a Texas flag behind him.
Absolutely, from the great state of Austin.
Yeah. Austin, the People's Republic. Yep.
Yeah.
Also with us, his co-host from time to time on Twists, Mr. Alex Wilhelm, the guy behind the Cautious Optimism newsletter, cautiousoptimism.news. And Jason had to kind of strong-arm you into being here today, so thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
I think he just told me. He's like, hey, by the way, I was talking to Leo, and I hear we're both going to be on Twist. And I told my wife, I'm like, well, bad news, honey. You're doing bedtime all by yourself on Sunday because I'm going on another show.
I was sitting here a couple of weeks ago doing, I think, Windows Weekly. And I got a text from Jason, and I thought, "Wow, there's a name I haven't heard in a
long time.
Long time.
Much more civilized weapon."
No, but Jason's a longtime friend of the show, and the last time you were on actually was during. And I have a T-shirt that says it: "The run on Silicon Valley Bank."
Yes,
was the last time you were on the show.
Crazy.
Yeah. We survived that, though, didn't we? That didn't turn out to be the mess that it looked like it was going to be.
Thank goodness they backstopped the deposits because there were
FDIC did.
Yeah, because there's like this weird thing. You get the first, I guess, $250K in a FDIC account is protected, but then after that you're on your own. And Silicon Valley Bank is kind of hated. It's Silicon Valley, it's rich people, but it's actually for people who live in the Bay Area, like your school and your mom and pop dry cleaner might use it. And then like two other banks had a run. That was a very scary time. I didn't have a problem with Silicon Valley Bank necessarily going out of business for making, having some poor management there. But gosh, the deposits in the bank accounts, that could have been a really cataclysmic situation. So
we're all these days very tied together, aren't we? And one bank goes, so goes the nation. So, it turned out not to be the cataclysm that it looked like it was going to be.
Yeah.
So
I think because of how fast it was sorted out over that weekend. And, I know regulators are kind of a bad word in America right now, but shout out to that team at the time for being quick, solving the issue, getting confidence back in the system. And that's why, Leo, we look back and we're like, what year was that? Well, it turns out it was 2023. It was 2 years ago.
What a year. What a year that was.
That wasn't that far.
I feel like we're living in dog years now. It's like every week, it's like 7 weeks.
Oh my God.
I mean, we're 70 days into Trump's second term, and it feels like we're on the third term already.
I've aged 75 years in 70 days.
It just takes over everything too,
I think there is a perception in the world, Jason, because of your friendship with Elon, that you perhaps are a friend of the administration, but you are an independent, right?
I've always been independent. I always vote for the best, candidate. I think I'm best described as like a Clinton Democrat. Fiscally, I'm conservative, and then socially, I'm incredibly liberal. And so,
who shrunk the government last time?
That was
Bill Clinton.
Yeah. I mean,
quite a bit by attrition and retirement and so forth.
I think we all agree we want to get rid of waste and fraud and abuse, and we want an efficient government that we, get the services that we pay for. I think people don't like the way they're going about it. It feels too violent, too fast. And, we live in a pretty polarizing time. My philosophy has always been whoever wins, support the president as best you can. And then there's a very weird thing that happened. All my Democratic friends are now part of the administration, around the administration. So I find myself in a very weird situation as a never Trumper to be supporting the good things they're doing, but I feel obligated to call out the terrible things, horrible things I think they're doing, or the mistakes they're making. So I'm calling balls and strikes, and we survived one Trump presidency. I think we'll survive this one.
One of the things you texted me when you sent the text a couple of weeks ago is, I like how you've managed to dodge politics on the show. We're not going to do a lot of dodgeball today because I think the Liberation Day on Wednesday could be disastrous for Silicon Valley. So my real, I guess, and Alex, please jump in. But my question for Jason right up front is, Silicon Valley wanted this president, right? At least part of Silicon Valley did.
I think, yeah.
Are they happy? This is the 404 media story. Big tech backed Trump for acceleration. They got a Decel president instead.
I think Trump winning is as much about the Democrats losing and, how they handled their presidential candidate and their campaign, because Trump was pretty easy to defeat.
It should have been easy to defeat. Yes,
he was. Yeah,
I'll agree with you on that.
I was talking to somebody who is in and around the administration, and I won't say who. I don't want to betray any trust. They said the fact that the Democrats have figured out a way to make Trump look like the better choice is astounding to them. They just couldn't believe that that's actually the turn of events.
Yeah, but what was it that made Trump look like the better choice? Because to some of us, it looks like the fact that Democrats picked a black woman as their candidate. And in this country, that was two strikes. Maybe Asian American was a third strike that disqualified her, even though she was fully qualified to do the job.
I think that's an interesting question. I'll tell you what people said to me in private, in the back channel. This isn't what I think. I think there were a lot of people who were very upset about the sort of woke politics, DEI, trans stuff with kids, all of that kind of.
Yeah, because that was what the president promoted in his ad campaigns, right?
I mean, most effective ad.
Congratulations. You don't have to worry about trans men in women's sports, but maybe you want to worry a little bit more about a few other things that are going to hell in a handbasket.
And I think they were really disturbed by Biden. A lot of the Democrats were really disturbed by the transition from Biden and the hot swap.
Yeah, it was a bit
Kamala.
of a hot swap. Yeah.
Yeah. And I called out the hot swap. It was pretty obvious.
It might have been a disadvantage, too, because she didn't have a full primary campaign to run and to introduce herself to America.
Jason was banging that drum at the time. He wanted a mini primary.
Yeah. What I told Democrats, because I find myself all of a sudden, because of All In getting so prominent, being
featuring two MAGA
I would
hosts.
say, one person who's MAGA Sachs. I think Chamath has obviously flipped over and he re-underwrote Trump. And then Freeberg is, he kind of dances a line where you don't actually know his politics all that much. And he tries to keep himself out of it or stay neutral. But I think he's probably, more in favor of the administration than not, just based on what he said on the show publicly. But, I don't like to speak for anybody but myself. What I'll say is, I told the Democrats, because I became friendly with Dean Phillips and some of the folks, and I don't really get involved in politics or donate. I told them, do a speed run primary. You'll take over the entire media for the summer, 3 weeks, start with 8 candidates, whoever gets the most votes, go down to 4, have another debate in the second week, then go down to 2, and then promise everybody whoever gets the most votes in that 3-week speed run primary will be number 1 and number 2. In other words, they don't pick their VP, they just go with it. It would have taken over people's imagination, and it would have been an easy victory for the Democrats. And
it's easy though. I mean, this is Monday morning quarterbacking. But again, to get to the question, is Silicon Valley now disappointed having chosen Trump as an accelerationist, somebody who would support cryptocurrency, who would support AI, who would build the economy, that in fact these tariffs are going to hit them very hard?
I think most people believe in the first cohort of topics you said, and then they believe that the tariffs are a negotiating tactic.
That it's going to go away.
And it's going to go away in 2 weeks.
The stock market clearly doesn't.
Yeah, they've voted that this is going to be cataclysmic. Yeah.
Yeah, and Besant was talking about that today. On the AI versus crypto front, Leo, I think it's pretty easy to say that the Trump administration has been about as crypto friendly as you can hope for. I mean, we're talking about pardons, lack of regulation, a cessation.
They pardoned Nikola's CEO who
that's
committed fraud.
That's not crypto. That's a different fraud. You got to keep the fraud separate, my friend.
Okay.
Don't
sorry.
conflate the fake trucks with the fake money. And I say that
You're right. That was a different kind of fraud.
I own a little Bitcoin in the family retirement account, so I just want to point that out. But I mean, if you were hoping for someone to take the heat off of crypto, I don't think you could.
That's true. And he campaigned. He was at the Bitcoin convention saying "Fire Gary Gensler," and they cheered. So he said it again. He got a standing ovation. So clearly that was in the card. So but the question is that enough to justify everything else?
Think about it through the lens of Andreessen Horowitz. They are a venture capital firm and they're politically active to some degree. And we all know that Mark Andreessen, via reporting, has been helping to staff the administration. Now, as Jason and I could tell you, the Andreessen Horowitz crypto venture firm has put together, I think, the largest funds ever in the space, Jason. So I think from that perspective, they're probably quite happy. But Mark Andreessen, in his Techno-Optimist manifesto and his discussion about how there's a great coiled spring in the American economy, well, if you look at Fed Now predictions from, I forget which Federal Reserve Bank it is, but one of them, we're looking at potentially a pretty sharp decline in economic activity. So I think from that side, no. And I also think that, and we'll talk about it later in the show according to the notes, but people are concerned that even though there's an exemption for chips in the tariffs, that won't actually obviate or even get entirely rid of the economic pain that the tariffs overall will bring to chips, which will retard and slow AI progress here domestically. So
look what Apple did. Apple thought, we're going to be cagey. We're going to move production to away from
India,
China to India, Vietnam, and Brazil. Whoops. Vietnam tariff is 49%. Of course, China is 52%. So maybe that was a net gain of 3%, I guess.
Not that much.
This is going to cost, is this going to, from the point of view of the technology user, is this going to mean the iPhone is up now 50%?
I don't think so. I think the most likely situation is Trump is doing this to make everybody come to Mar-a-Lago in the White House and negotiate and cut a deal with him.
He says Vietnam has called him immediately and said, well, let's make a deal. And Trump has said if it's what was the word he used? He had an interesting description of the kinds of deals he's looking for. Phenomenal. If he gets a phenomenal offer.
Tremendous.
It's going to be the biggest offer.
Incredible. They're very tough negotiators. Now, tremendous deal we did.
Every country has called us.
A little country known as Vietnam. Okay, you may have heard of it. I think all of this is going to result
Jason,
in.
Isn't that kind of uncertainty also bad for the market? Like, if he relents in 2 weeks, nobody's going to say, "Oh, good, it's over."
Which is what he wants. He wants everybody on edge. He wants to be the main character. I think he's addicted to doing that, and I think they want to. This is the prominent theory. They have to redo a bunch of these high-priced, interest payments that the government has, and so over time, if they can, what's the term? When you refinance a lot of this debt. So when they refinance this debt, they're trying to crash the stock market, get the 10-year lower than 4%, and they're going to refinance it. They're going to force Powell to cut rates, and then the economy is going to roar into the midterms. This is the 4D chess as explained by the administration. I think it's pretty simple. I think he wants everybody to genuflect. He wants everybody to come to Mar-a-Lago, the White House, cut a deal. And if we see the market crash tomorrow, Monday, we're taping on Sunday, obviously, he will start that relenting process real fast. I don't think he wants to be this unpopular and lose the midterm elections, which I think right now they're in really bad shape if the economy crashes. So I think we'll see him relent. I always have this like 72-hour rule with Trump. Whatever he says, wait 72 hours and then see what still applies. And so they did this on Wednesday. We're here, 4 days later. And already he's starting to say, oh, well, Vietnam has come around. These people are coming around. So that's the most likely scenario. But I do think that this is like doing a very high risk maneuver, in a passenger plane, like you're 1,000 feet off the ground and you decide you want to barrel roll the passenger plane. This is crazy. I think it's the only way to describe it. And I don't think it's crazy like a fox. I'll be totally honest. I think it's reckless.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of data points. One, I just went back to Apple's latest earnings report. Their gross margins are about 47%. So they do.
So they could absorb it.
A little bit, but keep in mind that, most companies have higher margins in the tech space because they're software companies. Apple is a majority hardware company. So there's a little bit less to play with there, and they're going to fight for it because Tim Cook does not F around. And so I don't know how much of this they're going to hold in. And I've heard some people say that Apple has not raised prices on iPhones for some time, maybe a cycle or two. So they may have some consumer goodwill as well to lean on there. I don't know. We'll have to see. But on the tariff front, the latest report from CNBC published 28 minutes ago, Commerce Secretary Lutnick doesn't back down in the face of market sell-off. Quote, the tariffs are coming. Now, again, could be 5-7 to 19D chess. Who knows? But at a minimum, the jawboning coming from the administration today on Sunday, after 2 days of chaos, is continuance. And so he's a true believer in tariffs, guys. I mean, I don't know why. I feel like we're building more of a mental model around this than we have to. Trump has been in favor of tariffs for decades. He calls
this is no surprise. He's wanted to do this. He said these countries are ripping us off for 30 years. So he's done what he always wanted to do.
Yeah, I think the execution matters in this case. And I think even the people who are ardent Trump supporters and voters, they don't believe this was executed well. I would have a hard time finding I think you'll have a hard time finding anybody who believes this was executed well. They should have
except
just said,
for Peter Navarro. Are you still buddies with Elon? Do you stay in touch?
Yeah, we're great friends. Yeah.
So Elon is now in a fight with Trump's trade minister, whatever, I don't know what you call him, Peter Navarro, because Navarro says these tariffs are great. And Elon says, and I think quite rightly, we want free trade. We don't, especially with Europe, we don't want any tariffs in either direction.
Yeah, that would be Trump's original position, which is reciprocity and having reciprocal trade. So I don't think that's not in agreement with Trump. Trump said, he's going to do what the other trading partners do. So if France wants to charge us to bring cheddar cheese we're going to charge for brie cheese to come here. Yeah.
The tariff he imposed had nothing to do with counter tariffs. It had to do with the trade deficit. He took the trade deficit,
which is weird,
divided it in half, and said that's the tariff. It isn't related to the tariffs in the other direction.
I don't think it's intellectually consistent, Leo. So I think what you're trying to say is, what's the through line here? And the answer is they're drawing squiggles. Yeah, I mean, and that's okay. By the way, I looked it up. There's a reason why you couldn't recall what Peter Navarro's title is. That's because you don't recall the senior counselor to the president for trade and manufacturing.
There you go. That's his real title. Yeah. It's a second time round, by the way, doing that.
I don't get why they keep bringing the same people who don't understand global trade or economics. Like, I mean, no offense to the world, but go read a textbook. This is not super impossible stuff. Comparative advantage yields benefits to both nations who are trading. I think the problem is Elon probably is a free trader at heart because he has business around the world and ships stuff, right? So he probably wants fewer trade barriers. That's just smart. He also is, go for it.
No, I was just saying there's good reasons to have tariffs on things that we need to produce here for national security. So if you think about pharmaceuticals, if you think about ships, weapons, bullets, bombs. There are some things we should have in our supply chain, obviously. So that makes sense. Then you look at the next group of things. Well, if people are charging us and we can't sell our cars in Korea and Japan, okay, well, maybe there's something there. But this across the board tariffs is just chaotic, and it's not the way to execute. And this is what you get when you vote for Captain Chaos. Trump is a chaotic actor. I call him Captain Chaos. And here we are. He's going to do things that most Americans want. 80% of Americans don't want to see, or even 90%, don't want to see illegal immigration. They want to see legal, responsible, reasonable immigration, right? So they feel good about Trump doing that. I think most people. Now, they also want to see criminals deported, but they don't want to see the lack of due process. So you have to look at each of these issues and you have to parse them, I think, intelligently. And I think that's like the role of podcasts like we're doing here is to unpack them. And in the case of tariffs, in case of tariffs, you really want to make sure we can make pharmaceuticals here, right? And make ships in case
most of our pharmaceuticals come from China, don't they?
Yeah. It's a decent number of them do, including ones that we don't want to have here, like fentanyl and the precursors to fentanyl. So
but I think people do seem to like Ozempic a lot.
I mean, it's worked well for me. I'm a big fan of GLP-1s.
Are you a Zempite? Ah, interesting. You look great. You're much thinner.
I'm 40 pounds from my peak. And what happened was our friend Kevin Rose on his random show with Tim Ferriss talked about Ozempic 3 or 4 years ago. And I had been doing intermittent fasting and lost maybe 15 pounds. And then I had 30 to go. And I did Ozempic and then Wegovy. And now I just take a little Mounjaro every X number of days as maintenance. And it was life-changing for me. Talk to your doctor if you're interested. There's some things to be thoughtful about, but I believe it's going to really change the world.
And to be fair, it's made in Denmark. It's not made in China. But
that's true.
A lot of your, especially your generic medications are made in China.
Yeah.
As long as we can still make them here, there's no problem with having the most efficient place in the world make and the best craftsmanship, depending on what you're going for, make your car, make your cheese, make your medicine, unless you can't get those things because you become too efficient. And that's what we saw during COVID, right? We didn't realize exactly how dependent we were on China specifically for PPE. And I think that's why Tim Cook said, you know what, we're too dependent on China. iPhones are critical for people. Let's make them in India. And they're making, I know they were making 15 in India. I'm not sure if they're making the
more modern, higher end ones down in India. I don't know if they're actually doing the iPhone Pro Max Super Duper, but yeah, they've been moving up the value chain there.
But the tariffs are in India too. I mean, the way Tim Cook got out of this last time in 2017 was he went to Trump and said, hey, you're going to give Samsung a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. So don't tariff us, bro. But the truth is, South Korea has been heavily tariffed as well. So Trump could now go back to Cook and say, hey, look what I did for you. Samsung no longer gains an advantage. Apple stock tanked. I mean, clearly Apple stockholders see this as a problem.
Absolutely. But can I go back, Leo, just for a second?
Sure.
To the idea about building ships and so forth in the United States. One thing that I'm a little bit read up on is how many submarines we can build, because I live in Rhode Island and we have shipbuilding here, and there's billboards like, come build submarines. There's a great headline from the National Interest that came out last year, and it says, can the U.S. Navy really build 3 submarines per year? Because previously we could only build 2. So I want to point out that a lack of national capacity for certain critical things is, I think, at a point of absolute panic. And there are some companies that Jason and I talk about over on Twist that are pushing, I would say, forward to build better weapon systems more cheaply and more quickly. And that's good. But it does feel like we were just getting on the upward slant towards a more nimble industrial complex future for the military. And then we threw the global supply chain into chaos. So it does feel self-defeating. But I would say that even though we didn't have tariffs on ships in the way that Trump might want to, we still didn't have the industrial base that we've needed
But we can never build iPhones in the U.S. And even if we do, we'll be outsourcing a lot of the parts to Asia.
Yeah, this is all going to be resolved, I believe, this week.
So it's just not going to be an issue because he's just going to back down.
He's going to back down. I'm 80% certain of that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because I mean, he really cares about how people perceive him. And he, the stock market is the scorecard. We were talking, in the pregame before the show about all these protests going on. I think these protests, as you pointed out, I think correctly, Leo, is some percentage of people going out there are saying, hey, my 401k is borked. This is not cool. Hey, these stocks.
Yeah, I was okay with you deporting the father because of his rose tattoo, but damn it, don't hit my 401k.
And everybody's got issues, or people might look at it and say, oh, the next shoe to drop is going to be layoffs, by the way. People seem to forget.
I'm terrified.
When you have a recession, you could have.
We had a very slow period. COVID killed our business. As you know, we shut down the studio. We laid off a lot of people, cut back on shows. At the end of last year, it was a desert. And for some reason that neither Lisa nor I could figure out, advertising we're practically sold out. Very solid.
Amazing. Yeah.
But, good news now. But I'm terrified that these companies, all software companies, almost entirely, right?
Yep.
Not hardware companies, so they're not going to be hit by tariffs, but I think their customers might be. And I am just waiting for the other shoe to drop and for these companies to say, oh, wait a minute, we got to cancel those ads because the economy or something. So I'm hoping that there is a course correction quickly because it impacts all of us, from running shoes to Korean makeup influencers to iPhone users and to laptop makers. Apple moved its laptop manufacturer to Vietnam. That didn't save it. It's 49% tariff out of Vietnam.
Forget my 401k. I'm really concerned about the price of South Korean skincare products because that has become a key pillar of the American economy.
If you like snail mucus, you're going to love South Korea.
No, I mean, like we joke, but it just goes to show how interconnected the world is. I mean, we've always thought, well, not always, but in my lifetime, I've always considered the United States to be such a net exporter of culture and business. But one thing we've seen in the last 5 or 10 years is a growth in the popularity of Japanese and South Korean products, culture, shows, movies, et cetera, here in the United States. And it's been a lot of fun because we have huge immigrant populations from around the world. And I love that. But it's such a bummer that if we're going to see a more diverse, internal national cultural economy, to slap trade barriers on it. And so we joke about South Korean skincare products, but I do think it's actually indicative of the changed world.
No, it's huge.
Better. And a disappointment.
It's also good for peace because even if a mortal enemy is a big trade partner, I think they're less, China holds a lot of our paper. I think they're a lot less likely to attack us and our allies if we are tied, if we are economically intertwined. But you guys are financial wizards. I am not. So let me ask you the big question, which is this in the long run going to improve the U.S. economy? If Trump backs down, have we damaged our relationship with Europe to the point where it won't matter? Leave your Swiss chocolates at home?
I think that's a reasonable question to ask, because if you were, let's say, Germany or India, they need energy. As but one example of inputs they need. And what did Germany do previously? Well, they built the Nord Stream and they had no problem buying oil and gas from Putin.
From Russia.
Yeah. India, when all these trade wars and sanctions happened, they were like, we'll buy that. We're an independent sovereign country. That's cheap. We need it. And so you might be driving the EU, into the arms of Putin and into the arms of China, because
Africa into China. South America to China.
Exactly. Miraculously, we figured out a way to have people pick Xi Jinping and Putin. These are really bad hombres. Like, these are bad actors and dictators in the world. And we're going to drive people, democracies and our partners, to partner with them.
It's really about soft power. We've had this sort of parity in soft power with the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative versus our U.S. aid efforts. But if we withdraw unilaterally from that kind of soft power, that leaves a vacuum.
Which will be filled.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's and also people are going to do what's in the best interest of their citizens. So if you're Canada and you believe the U.S. and Trump and the administration are not good actors, and you need energy or you need cars or you need medicine or whatever you need, employees, citizens to import into your country to maintain growth, that's what's going to happen. And so. Yeah, I think that should be definitely a major concern people have.
It should be. And also, I want to say that I read a lot of the subreddits for different nations and national blocks that focus on kind of like, Leo, we still can't swear on TWiT, right?
Yeah, please don't. Although if you do, I have buttons.
No, it's okay. I'll spell it out.
Swear, and I will just press a button. Okay.
I'm just trying to save the editing team time. Anyways, I read a lot of SHIT posting subreddits for these groups, and it is amazing how mad the Canadians are with the United States.
I am not. I made a joke a few weeks ago about the 51st state, and I got a lot of irate email.
Yes, not popular.
And also, believe me, I love Canada. I've spent time there. I've worked there. I am by descent French Canadian. I had I had no interest in offending Canada. I love Canada. I think it's a sad state of affairs when we our natural partner in the world, we turn against them. And Mexico too, frankly.
Yes.
I want to take a break. We got to take a break.
Yeah.
I do want to come back because one of the things I've been reading, and I'm curious if you guys have read it. I'm very interested in the position Alex Karp is taking in his new book, The Technological Republic. He, of course, the founder and CEO of Palantir. And I was prepared to really hate him and this book. And I found it very persuasive. And he does, in fact, talk about hard power, soft power, and says this 21st century is going to be not the century of kinetic war as it has been, but the century of software. And that software is going to be the dominant force in the world politics. So I want to talk about that in a little bit and give you a chance to think about it. It's really nice to see you again, Jason. A lot of people said, Calacanis? What? But Jason and I have always been friends, off and on, and
little bumps in the road.
I really appreciate you as a human.
Yes.
And appreciate having you on. Whether we agree politically or not is completely secondary to it. So I'm just glad to see you again.
Good to be here.
And if I wish to hell I had an Audible ad for you.
Oh, Audible. Well, what do you got? We got a LinkedIn?
Nothing you want to get into. Are you a LinkedIn? You want to go all out on LinkedIn these days?
I love LinkedIn because I don't know if you're streaming live.
Does he not LinkedIn sound every once in a while like Christopher Walken? I love LinkedIn. You do a good Walken.
I just built an incredible profile at LinkedIn. I'm getting so many jobs.
Somebody asked Walken why he talks like that. He says, everybody talks like that where I'm from. And you're kind of from a nearby area.
English? Talking English? It's a great language. Wow.
Every once in a while, a little squeak comes out of Jason that says, oh, there's a Walken in there. Are you, what part of New York are you from?
I'm from Brooklyn, specifically Bay Ridge, which is the last exit on the R train. I am from the uncool part of Brooklyn, and when I left Brooklyn, it became cool. So
it's cool now.
It's cool now. So we're clear. I left, Brooklyn became cool.
Well, I know
it's exactly correlated.
I don't know if they're related, but it's great to have you on, and of course, Alex Wilhelm, my dear friend who lives in my childhood home. Did you know that, Jason? By the way.
He literally lives in your childhood home or town.
It's the world's weirdest
home, house, building that I grew up in.
No.
Yep. I sleep in Leo's parents' bedroom.
Are you kidding me? What are the chances of that?
Well, it was what are the chances of our discovering it? It was just a weird, his, at the time, fiance, Liza, was visiting, and I grew up in Providence. She lives in Providence. I said, oh, that's cool. Where? She told me the street. I said, oh, I used to live on that street. Where? What? And she told me the address. I said, that's my house.
So if you go to the backyard and you go 5 feet back.
Alex is in my backyard.
Just go to the fourth floorboard. Open that up.
There's stuff
and in
buried
there
out there.
is Leo's gold bullion.
That's right. I put my Bitcoin in the backyard.
No, it's better than that. Leo's dad planted a tree.
We planted a pin oak. It was a pin oak, aptly named because it was about this thick. when was that? That must have been 1969, 70. Mm-hmm. It is now 55 years old, and it is a big oak, isn't it?
Yes, it's large.
Well, I mean, we could literally do the chances of this. Like, there are how many single-family homes in the United States?
It's pretty small.
There's got to be 75 million freestanding single-family homes. So, and yeah,
it's all right. This is not an interview for a tech job. Don't worry, you don't have to do the math.
How many ping pong balls can fit in the pool house?
You have to factor in how many different hosts we have on the show too, right? There's a large.
True. That's more.
It's like the birthday paradox because, yes, a lot of hosts.
The chances of us.
I'm pretty sure Jason does not live in a home I've ever lived in. In fact, I know it.
Well, let me catalog my homes.
When did you move to Austin?
I moved to Austin last year. And
you like it?
I love it. I mean, I've always loved this town.
It's a great town. Yeah.
It's a great town, and it reminds me a lot of California when I moved here when I moved to California like 25 years ago or 23 years ago.
Yeah, I love Austin. Yeah,
it's got that pioneering spirit, and I live on a horse ranch, over 30 acres in the hill country, and
do you play polo?
No, I mean, this is like a literal horse ranch, like not like an elite one. Like, but I don't have horses yet. But the girls are taking horseback riding. So 3 daughters.
And that's good. Yeah, that's good.
There's like the sense of space is very weird. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's getting so crowded. There you go. Yeehaw.
I'll wear the hat. I'm all hat, no horses, but
getting from Petaluma to San Francisco is an hour, right? Solid hour.
Yeah.
And getting from the hill country to downtown Austin is roughly 20 miles, 30 minutes. So, but
there's great barbecue on the way, I might add.
I live near the Salt Lick. And
the
Salt Lick, and oh my Lord, that bison rib and that is incredible.
Thank God for Ozempic.
Well, I mean, and
I have good impulse control now. Yeah.
You wouldn't believe the number of people moving here. Like, it's always been like 3% growth here, but it's growing faster. And they let people build. So compared to San Francisco, housing prices have gone down 2 years in a row. It's the 3rd year they're going down. If you want to own a home and you come here, it's pretty amazing how affordable it is. And so I think it's the future of startups. All these young startups I invest in, they all want to move here because, they can actually buy a starter home for $250K, or an apartment, and the cost of living is half or a third of what it is in the Bay Area.
And there's no state income tax, which I can tell you right about now. I would like to not have a state. Income
I mean,
let's not talk about taxes. I'm still.
It will add up. Yeah,
all right.
Add up.
I am going to take a little break. At some point, I wouldn't mind talking. There was a really interesting article about the secondary effects of Ozempic and semi-glutides. Have you talked about that on All In? It's a really interesting subject.
It is, because people with alcohol or gambling, a lot of these dependencies they're finding.
Impulse control.
Impulse control, exactly.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's going to change our economy, however.
Dude,
because
AA is going to have to rebrand because it's just going to become like a dispensary for like GLP-1s.
Great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think I probably can't get on it because my doctor will say, you're too old to take that stuff. So.
Nonsense.
All right. We are not going to do an ad for Ozempic right now. Our show today brought to you by Drata. You may know this company. It's actually a solution that a lot of your startups should probably be finding out about. If you're leading risk and compliance at your company, you are wearing a few hats. That is not easy, managing security risks, responding to compliance regulations and demands, and of course, these days, budget constraints, all while trying not to be seen as the roadblock that's slowing the business down. But GRC is a lot more than just checking boxes. GRC actually can be a revenue driver that builds trust, accelerates deals, and of course, strengthens security. That's why modern GRC leaders turn to Drata, a trust management platform that automates tedious tasks so you can focus on reducing risk, proving compliance, and scaling your program. With Drata, you can automate security questionnaires. You can automate evidence collection. That's a huge boon. And compliance tracking. You'll stay audit ready with real-time monitoring. And you're going to love simplifying security reviews with Drata's Trust Center. It's just so slick. And the AI-powered questionnaire assistance, you'll breeze through those questionnaires. Instead of spending hours proving trust, build it faster with Drata. If you're ready to modernize your GRC program, go to Drata, drata.com/weekintech. Drata.com/weekintech. WEEKINTECH. Just if you would use that URL, that way they know you saw it.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you use these services and you get SOC 2 compliant, you get your GDPR, all that stuff.
Yes.
Then you can get the lighthouse customers. Many of the top customers you want to get as a startup, you will not land them if you don't have this. So it does become a blocker for startups, especially when they get to like year 2 or 3. They got to get this dialed in.
Got to solve it.
It's a chore. It's a chore. And you know, if you want help with your chores, you should go to drata.com.
Jason, you really are so good at this. You don't have to do it, but you're so good at it. Thank you.
I love reading ads. I also think it's great that people support independent media like This Week in Tech.
I agree. I played it before the show began. Maybe we could drop it in at the end. Actually, Benito, put it in as like a blooper at the end.
Stinger, yeah.
An amazing support job by Jason Calacanis for the Audible ad. There's actually quite a few of them. Oh. You were really, back in the day, you were really good. You would just sing its praises.
Love Audible.
Can I throw in one little thing here about Drata? Jason, guess what is a Twist 500 company?
Are they a Twist 500 company?
They are.
Well, there you go. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a good thing.
We're cataloging the 500 most valuable, interesting private companies in the little index for us to talk about the business of startups. Nice. And so they made the list. It's pretty hard.
They did. I'm proud of myself that I knew that Leo was going to talk about them, so I could give him an extra plug.
You put them in.
Yeah.
I'm just curious I have a few things.
Oh boy.
A few sound effects from you. I think I have even one that's even more effusive. About yeah, I think that's what you sounded like.
That was it.
It was like, audible.
I can't swear, but you guys can do that on air. See how it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll save that for.
We'll save it for the stinger. Reason to finish the show, folks.
So, have either of you read The Technological Republic?
I haven't read it, but I know of what he speaks, and Palantir is he's a very interesting CEO. Palantir is a very interesting company. We've talked a lot about how Palantir became a meme stock, and their valuation. The company, people don't know this, at one point their price to sales ratio, the amount of revenue they make to their sales, what did it hit, Alex? Like 60, 70, 80 at one point?
Oh no, it was higher than that. I'll pull it up.
Even higher. Oh my God. I mean, it's a real company with real growth.
Well, it made Alex Karp a billionaire for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Financed by Peter Thiel. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't like the idea of AI in defense, and that's what Palantir does. Although in the book, Karp talks about how Palantir AI was used to predict the placement of IEDs during the war. I guess it was in Afghanistan. One of probably the single most dangerous element of the war for American troops, and save lives. His position in the book, and I think it's really, I'm going to try to get them on one of our Intelligent Machines show because I really want to talk about it. Her position, his position in the book is that America in the 20th century benefited from a partnership between Silicon Valley and government for things like the internet, NASA, of course, the Manhattan Project, where engineering talent was not unwilling to work with the government in our national interest. But that, unfortunately, what's happened in the 21st century is that companies have kind of embraced the free market to the degree that the same engineering talent is now creating better ways to advertise, to surveil, to share silly videos, and is not contributing to the overall well-being of the country. And that it's time for us to really sit back and think. And this is, by the way, obviously this is his belief when he founded Palantir, because that's what Palantir is all about.
Yeah.
And he thinks that Silicon Valley needs to readjust its values, that we need to start, that it's okay to say, we want to protect America. We want to protect American values. And he says, he quotes economist Thomas Schelling, who says, diplomacy starts at the, barrel of a gun, that you can only be diplomatic through military strength. But military strength in the 21st century is not going to be about kinetic war. It's not going to be who has the biggest gun or the stealthiest submarine. It's going to be software bit driven. It's going to be AI based.
Absolutely.
I thought it's a very interesting thesis.
I don't know when that, I think it was really at Google that we saw for the first time a group of people, and their employees are encouraged to bring their whole self to work. And if your whole self is you're a pacifist and you don't want to work on weapons technology, that's completely understandable and you're right. And so, everybody gets to make those individual decisions here in America. That's one of the great things about our democracy. And if you want to make weapons technology, if you feel patriotic and that's your duty, great. I'm of the belief that if you're going to benefit from capitalism and democracy, you should be willing to defend it. It's not like anybody's being drafted here to go work on the front lines. But I do think it's important because if you look at Russia's invasion of Ukraine and that battle, it's largely been drones and information, satellites, Starlink, all these things are playing a very prominent role. And we really need to upgrade our capabilities in that regard. When we see the next, actual, when Americans go to war, we're going to be looking at this going, we need some robotic dogs with AK-47s and military weapons on them. We're going to need drone technology that can, counter these drones. And God forbid, terrorism here in the United States, the next terrorist attack. I don't remember the New Jersey drone phenomenon that occurred that we still haven't gotten great answers on.
I think we've decided. I think every administration, even the Biden administration, said it's consumer drones, it's aircraft, it's nothing you should be worried about.
And that made everyone stop worrying.
Well,
who knows? That's
are people still worried about New Jersey drones? It seems to have left the headlines.
We have real problems now.
If it was, if those were, let's say, Russian or Chinese drones or American drones doing some sort of surveillance, like the actual thing the government would say is, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's consumer drones."
Well, that's true.
So
I don't want to. That's always the defensive conspiracy theory as well. That's exactly what you'd expect them to say. So I don't want to delve into that. Although Karp does in the book mention that the Chinese have created drone swarms that can be used to hunt.
That's my point.
Soldiers in forests in very difficult areas completely autonomously. The Schelling quote that he has in the book is this: "The power to hurt is bargaining power. To exploit it is diplomacy. Vicious diplomacy, but diplomacy." You talk about Google. The Google engineering team signed a petition saying we will not work on Project Maven, which was a Defense Department project to make drone imagery more useful, not to kill people necessarily. It wasn't autonomous anything. It was about analyzing drone imagery. And Google backed down. Microsoft's done something similar. His point is that maybe we shouldn't be so quick to abandon defense of this country. And I'm a pacifist. I do believe that soft power, economic power, cultural hegemony, all of these things can promote peace. But at the same time, if you have a Putin who wants to take Ukraine back or Xi Jinping who wants to take Taiwan back, you probably ought to have some hard power as well. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's dead on, Leo. I also would say that it seems that the Pax Americana has come to an end. And I do think that the current administration is moving us towards a multipolar world versus a one superpower world, which I do think is going to open up more shooting conflicts around the world, be it people with guns or drones or Jason's robot dogs with AKs, whatever it is. I don't think we can afford right now to back off of defensive work, as we might call it. And the thing about the examples of Google and Microsoft and Project Maven and going over these relatively important historical moments is I don't think they matter, because startups, smaller companies are going hell to the bells to build this stuff. We're talking to companies on Twist.
Oh, interesting. So this message has been received, in other words.
Received, funded, accelerated, bought into. And
certainly Karp and Thiel have made a lot of money on Palantir. So, there is a model.
Can I confess something here on the show? I've read Palantir's website. I've read their earnings. I've had AI summaries. I have tried to figure out what the hell they do.
No one knows what they do. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. In fact, I'm glad to hear you say that. It's fairly opaque. They're not, and probably for good reason.
Yeah, I don't try to fear the unknown, but I do think that the argument about if American technology companies will participate in defense has been answered with a yes by the market. And some of my friends on the left, I'll say, are going to make a lot of noise about it. And I think that's a good note to have in the conversation in the broader symphony, but it's certainly not the leading melodic line. Currently, we're making guns. Like, Jason, we had...
well, that's the reason I brought that up is, should we worry about being able to make 3 submarines instead of 2? Maybe submarines aren't what we need to be focusing on right now.
I think we are moving away from essentially what I would call the aircraft carrier model. Like, it used to be a mark of national pride to be able to field an aircraft carrier. Very few nations could do it. Russia's keep lighting on fire. China has 2, one they bought from scrap, I think. We have like 7, right? And that was this big point of pride. But do you really want an aircraft carrier if it's going to be a drone-based forest war? Well, maybe, but certainly it won't be as impactful as it was back in like World War II. So I think that it's probably more important today that we're building cheaper UAVs, cheaper underwater UAVs, drone jamming technology and so forth, than building 30 submarines as opposed to 3. Though I do think 3 is still too few, even given that context.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't completely abandoned kinetic war, obviously.
No. I mean, we've got tanks running all across Ukraine right now because we're fighting over, essentially warm water ports and grain. I mean, like, those are
But Ukraine's a good example because this has become a lab for drone warfare, UAV warfare, all kinds of new technologies, many of which are software driven.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the component parts are a key part of this because, DJI out of China makes a lot of these parts. And what was it? Chris Anderson's company that was out in Berkeley was making, roll your own drones. You could buy the rotors, you could buy the different components, individually. And the whole drone thing, when we were talking about it here on TWiT 10 years ago, was a hobbyist build your own kind of concept.
And interesting, the outcome, I think it's been said, I think it's true, of Apple's financing of Chinese manufacture, because by creating such volume in China, these manufacturers were able to perfect processes and technologies, things like accelerometers, that were later then applied to drone manufacture in China. And that's why all the best drones are made in China. They're not made in the US anymore.
Which goes back to tariffs, which goes back to supply chains. And do we want to have one place in the world be able to make those components if that becomes the theater in which future wars are fought? So we obviously need to be able to make drone technology here. And the components that are in it, or at least have a diversity of places we could get it from.
So people have brought this up in terms of chip fabs. And of course, TSMC and other companies are building fabs in Arizona and the United States. TSMC has not been able to make a fab that can do the 2 nanometer and 3 nanometer EUV process that they do in Taiwan because they can't get the labor to do it. The PhDs who are doing it in Taiwan are getting paid $50,000, $60,000 a year. Yep. You can't get a PhD. And that's why, by the way, they're bringing in Taiwanese PhDs to run those factories, because you can't get American PhDs to work for those prices. And I suspect in the long run, they're not going to get the Taiwanese PhDs to work for those prices either in the United States.
It's pretty cool to live in the United States where there's tons of room.
Maybe they're happy. Maybe they're happy. Yeah.
Well,
but the point is, the long-term point is, it's difficult for us to duplicate these manufacturing capabilities in the United States. But not impossible.
If you've ever been to, one of Elon's factories, and I've been to, most of them here in the US, in Nevada, the battery one, and then the Gigafactory here in Texas, independent of how you feel about his politics, he is probably one of the top 3 or 4 most knowledgeable factory builders in the world today. And things can be built here. If you look at your Model Y being built here, it is a phenomenal vehicle. It's the best-selling vehicle, I think, in the world, or one of them. And
not anymore, but it was.
It was, yeah. Before, people,
but that's not for a technical reason. That's for other reasons.
And so, we can build these things here. There has to be the wherewithal. This is why I think long-term, will be just fine in terms of this multipolar world. Entrepreneurship, capitalism, independent again of how you feel about it, or wealth polarization and all these valid issues. The reason we'll beat China, the reason we're beating Russia is because of entrepreneurship, because people in this country have an incentive and a drive to build new companies. And what does Xi Jinping do, or Putin, or any dictator or despot? They will get jealous of entrepreneurs and send Jack Ma to go take painting lessons, or just turn off investment in technology companies in China, which is what they did. We're going to win, I think, ultimately because of that entrepreneurial spirit. We have to celebrate it while doing things that make the country, feel fair to everybody. This is why I'm a huge fan of, providing healthcare to everybody in the country. Which
is, by the way, also very good for these startups, because that's a massive cost. It's a big cost for us.
It's a huge cost. And then it also creates, I don't know if you've experienced this, where you'll have a team member who can't leave jobs.
Yeah, it's bad for the workers. Exactly.
It's really,
they're locked in.
They're locked in. And so, Alex technically works for me, but he's got a Substack, which you can go subscribe to. So he's kind of independent, and he's got a lot of options. But imagine a situation where, we weren't getting along or something, and he's not enjoying his job, but he's got to stay there. Stuck.
It's yeah. Sorry, Alex, you're stuck.
You're stuck. No, it's good. My wife has amazing healthcare, so anytime I want to tell Jason
that's right. Never mind.
I'm out.
No, Renee Ritchie, who was on MacBreak Weekly for a long time, love him, right? He was working for iMore, a magazine publication, which is no longer, so it's a good thing he left. But when he left to go independent, much like you did, Alex Wilhelm, leaving TechCrunch, he said, I can do it because I'm in Canada and my healthcare is covered. Yes. I am free to do this. It's a lot easier to do this. And I agree with you, Jason. I think one of the real strengths we're seeing in media anyway of this country is the ability to go out on your own and create something. Yes. And I did it 20 years ago. And
you were the pioneer. I mean,
it's one of the first. It's a great thing for people. My son's doing it right now. And it's a great thing for people. I wonder, though, do we have the know-how to replace these overseas factories, or you think we can?
Yeah, we can.
Build these back?
We can. We just need to have the will, and also regulations are the big issue. When you talk to folks from TSMC or anybody trying to build something here, they will point you to regulations. And when Elon was at the All In Summit last year, I asked him, I'd had conversations with him about this previously. Where would you be at with building the Gigafactory, which is in Texas, if you were trying to build it in California, which is where he originally tried to build it? He said, I would still be in environmental review, in protests, et cetera. And then he built it here in Austin, literally in like 18 months. If you put too much regulation around entrepreneurs, if you slow them down too much, then we will lose. One of the great features of the United States is that we have 50 states in competition with each other. That's actually a great feature, it turns out. Now, you can pick as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, or as a citizen, which regime you want to work under. If you live in Texas, your neighbor can build a cafe next door to you. Now, if you live in Petaluma or San Francisco, your neighbor can't build a shed or an ADU without having like all this red tape. And they've had to literally make laws in California.
There's a middle ground, though. I mean, I've walked around in some countries where the building laws are somewhat lax.
And they collapse. Literally, the buildings fall down,
look what happened in Myanmar. I mean, tragic. But so there is a middle ground. Regulations aren't inherently bad. I agree you can over-regulate.
Yeah. Leo, I'll put it this way. I lived in San Francisco for a very long time, and I lived in a rent-controlled apartment. So I have lived the lefty West Coast dream of
it's a problem, isn't it?
In a rent-controlled apartment, and let me tell you, so here I still view myself as a Californian living in Rhode Island to some degree, but I gotta say I have been so incredibly impressed by watching Austin's real estate prices and rental prices drop. Like that, it is such a clarion call to stop beating ourselves in the head with a shovel and build some more stuff and get rid of some of these rules that are done usually in good faith, but have added up to an absolute level of friction that makes it impossible to live and thrive.
Well, that would be an argument, though, for electing a non-medieval governor and attorney general. I would not want to be a woman in Texas at this point.
I disagree with that. Where is the pro-build Democrats? Where the frick are they?
Yeah.
Like, I feel
that's
like
Ezra Klein's big, tour right now with his book is like, hey, we did this to ourselves in California. Look at the high-speed rail. I was just in Japan skiing, which I try to do every year or two. And they're building a high-speed rail to get to Niseko and the ski resorts there in Hokkaido.
What happened in California? Why is the high-speed rail so over budget and
corruption and regulations?
Yeah,
that's it. Grift, corruption, regulations.
How's it doing?
Yeah.
We don't have a monopoly on corruption in California, I don't believe.
Yeah, it's pretty acute, You
live in Rhode Island, Alex.
Yeah, I'm like, we have like a living legend.
The land of Buddy Cianci. You can't tell me.
My in-laws live near Buddy Cianci's old house. I can't go home from their house from dinner without driving by it.
There's a tax on your bagels you're not even aware of.
I mean, my parents, when they lived here in the 70s, described a very different state than the one that we live in. Just before we get back to this important conversation, I do want to say that we now have futures data for early stock market trading for tomorrow.
I'm going to guess down 4%.
Give me a Dow Jones point number, Jason.
Dow Jones, I'm going to say 2% down. What is the Dow Jones at right now?
I've led you astray. The Dow Jones is off 4% or 1531 points.
I said the 4 was my first guess, and then I went down to 2. I thought you were going to say NASDAQ.
So that's the market saying, whatever Trump does this week, it doesn't matter.
Well, no, it could. I mean,
it could come back if Trump turns it around.
You don't get trust back. You don't get your friends
back. Yeah, that's the problem.
But you could stop.
Look, if I'm a manufacturing CEO and I have to get steel from Canada or I have to buy hardwood, I am not going to count on anything, right?
No.
This is the issue. You brought it up earlier when you were lamenting what happened during COVID. I had the same thing happen. Like you, This Week in Startups was sold out for a decade. And then all of a sudden we had 3 or 4 cancellations or postponements. And I was like, what's happening here? This is crazy. And if you can't plan for the future and you have uncertainty, what businesses do is they pause.
Yeah.
They just pause. And that's what's going to happen right now. Everybody's on pause, which means, should I build a factory? Okay, yeah. If it's going to be tariffs, I should start making Nikes in America or, somewhere closer that has better agreements. But firing up a factory is not like ordering DoorDash. It's a little more complex than that.
Right.
And
it takes billions to build a fab and a decade, and you can't start that project unless you think there's a market for it at the other end. Look what happened to Intel, right?
My belief is this is all going to get washed out. I think I would say the pain threshold is when you get past 20%, which we've all experienced multiple times, is correction territory, right? So
that's such an anodyne word for such a bad thing. Oh, it's just a correction.
10% is a correction, 20% is a bear market, 30% is when you close your laptop.
What's a crash?
I don't think there's a number associated because it's really interesting. Alex and I were talking about this last week on the pod.
The 1929 great market crash was 12.8%, I think.
That's 1/8. That's 1 in every $8.
I think, that was one day. That's
one day. That's October 29th.
You have to put together, because I think the following Monday was even worse.
Yeah.
So even when we had Black Friday, I think the Monday, Tuesday were worse. So you have to put like a 5-day together. If this gets to like 30%, 40%, it's going to become very acute very, very quickly. And I think it's already happened. I think they're going to just pile together 10 wins tomorrow and trot them out one after the other. Vietnam, India, Singapore, whatever it is. Yeah. And then the final boss will be China. And we're going to do some great reconciliation with China that will include TikTok.
Let's get to TikTok, actually. I want to take a break and we'll get to TikTok. I am knocking on wood. I hope, Jason, that you are right, because the alternative is not good. You're watching. We got a little political. I guess we're a little, but we're not. We're talking. I think we're talking about facts as opposed to politics or opinion or We're certainly not ad hominem at this point, and I want us to keep it that way. And I think that that's valuable. And we've avoided this topic, as you pointed out in your texts to me, Jason, for a long time. But these tariffs absolutely impact every product you're buying, including all the technology you're buying. And so
no way to avoid it. And
very interested in the outcome. Now, one thing I do know about advertising that. We've always said this to our advertisers. The time you should advertise is when the times are tough. That is when that's when opportunity exists, right? Especially for the kind of advertisers we have who are almost all security companies. I'll give you an example. This is our sponsor for this segment of the show, the Thinkst Canary. And I have my Thinkst Canary right here. This is such a cool product. It looks like it's about, I put it next to my iPhone. It's about the size of an external hard drive. Plugs into the wall, plugs into the Ethernet. This thing is a honeypot. Oh my God, is this a useful tool? Anybody who has perimeter defenses protecting your company needs to think about what happens if somebody penetrates them. And you might say, it'll never happen, except it's happening again and again and again. Breaches are multiplying upon breaches. It's just one phishing email and boom, it's over. So how do you know if a bad guy is inside your network or a malicious insider is wandering around your network looking at things, exfiltrating embarrassing emails or customer information? The best way is this, the Thinkst Canary. It's a honeypot that's actually easy to deploy. In fact, my Thinkst Canary right now, I think is a Windows server, but I could change this kind of on a day-to-day basis. It's really kind of fun. The Thinkst Canary sits on your network. You might have one, you might have a dozen, depends on, your size of your business. It also can create, this is actually really cool, it can also create files, lure files, trip files that will sit around on your network looking like PDFs or Excel spreadsheets or Word documents. I don't think I'm giving anything away. You guys aren't going to try to break into my network, right? Well, if somebody does, I have an Excel spreadsheet called employeeinformation.xls.
Oh.
If that is ever touched, I'm going to immediately get an alert. Just no false alerts, just the alerts that matter. Whether it's a fake internal SSH server, in this case, for a long time it was a Synology NAS. And by the way, it can be a SCADA device. When they're impersonating a hardware device, the MAC address is correct. The login looks like the real thing. It is completely invisible to a bad guy. But when they attack it, you're going to get an alert, just the alerts that matter. I'll show you. I have my Thinkst Canary right here. It's a Windows Server 2019 Office file share. Here, I'll put this up on the screen.
Genius.
Isn't this brilliant? I can make it be IIS. I can have a CentOS server, Mac OS 10 file share, Canon image runner. I don't even know what that is. I can make it a Hirschman RS20 industrial switch, for crying out loud. It'll have the correct MAC address. This Windows server looks like an HP server. That's why it has that MAC address. And it just sits there. I can have it say, notify me if there's a port scan. I can turn on whatever services I want. You can make it a Christmas tree and turn them all on, or you could just turn on a few little services. Maybe we'll turn on a web server and an SSH server. I find as soon as I put an SSH server out in the public, it gets it immediately. So I'm going to save, let's save those changes down here. And now I have, while doing a commercial, ladies and gentlemen, reconfigured my Thinkst Canary. This is such a cool product. I've also created Canary tokens. All you do is you choose a profile for your Canary, and as you can see, it's easy enough. You could change it anytime you want. Register it with the hosted console. That's what I'm in right now. And it does all the monitoring and notifications. You can be notified any way you want. Text message, email, Slack. They support webhooks. They have an API, syslog. So you set it up, then you wait. You put your hands behind your head and you wait. The chances are, like on this, you're never going to hear anything because you're secure. But as soon as somebody breaches your network or a malicious insider starts looking around, they will make themselves known by accessing the Thinkst Canary. It doesn't look vulnerable. It looks valuable, right? It is an incredible device. Everybody needs this. It is part of your layered security strategy. On average, companies who are breached don't know for 91 days. That's 91 days. A bad guy can wander around, do all sorts of damage. You need this. Canary.tools/twit. I'll give you a pricing example. For $7,500 a year, you'd get 5 of them, sprinkle them around, as many tokens, Canary tokens, as you want. You get your own hosted console, you get upgrades, you get support, you get maintenance. And by the way, if you use the offer code TWIT in the How'd You Hear About Us box, you're going to get 10% off the price for life. There's one other data point. I know sometimes people hear this and they go, I don't know. There's no risk. You can always return your things to Canaries within their 2-month money-back guarantee window. 2 months, and you'll get a full refund. So there is zero risk. I should point out that we have been doing these ads for 8 years now, and all this time, that refund has never once been claimed. Because once people get it, and they see it, and they realize what it can do, you're going to always want to have one. More than one. Visit canary.tools/twit. Don't forget the offer code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. Canary.tools/twit. This is a
I just bookmarked that. Canary.tools.
Oh, yeah. If you have a network
/twit. Yeah, you got to put this on.
Thank you.
What a genius idea. Well, no, I mean, think about the cost of a breach at your company would be a lot more. So an ounce of prevention here.
Absolutely. On Security Now, we were talking a couple of weeks ago. A company did all the right things. They had good perimeter defenses. They even had defenses internally, making sure that a bad guy couldn't install malware on anything. And but they missed one thing. There was a camera in the operation, a security camera that was running Linux.
Oh no!
The bad guys. There was enough CPU and enough memory on that thing to put malware on the camera.
Of course. And
ransomware the whole thing. They
Crazy.
Encrypted all the data. It's unbelievable.
It's happened to me one time. Somebody got one of our, a couple of companies ago, somebody got into the network server with like the storage array. And I'm like, what? And they, they encrypt it, then they want a ransom.
They're really smart.
Luckily I had a backup, but I mean, they're really smart and they're looking for weakness. And this, will let you know if they've got in, which is great.
Jason, I'm still not going to pay you to do that any more than I'm already paying you, which, as you pointed out last time, is nothing. So,
well, you doubled my rate. My weekly appearance fee is $0.0. So I
all
doubled
these
it.
years I haven't been getting paid to come on TWiT.
I actually negotiated with Canary a affiliate deal now. So now I also get $0.
Oh, great! That's
I get $0 per sale.
Use Jason's special link.
Use my special link. /twit
/all in. Do you have ads on All In?
There's famously no ads on All In.
That's what I thought. I've never heard
is
one. Yeah.
Like literally leaving tens of millions of dollars a year, and all these sponsors want to do it. I'm begging my co-hosts to do it. They don't care because they're all
wealthy. It's the billionaire show.
We've all done very well.
And Jason, just a little feedback. Well. The only negative when I listened to it.
The only negative?
When we went down to Gstaad, I've got to tell you, the best place to go in Gstaad to get your
truffles.
It was like it kind of is a little bit like Rich Guy Show. So, and there he is with his cigar. Yeah.
See? It's
the only negative. I mean, what's great about it, you got David Sachs, you got really good people on it. It's a very interesting show. And when you started it, none of them were rich or famous. It's amazing.
None of them were famous. They had all come on. I mean, in some ways, Leo, I hate to tell you this, but you taught me so much. And obviously, the name of my show this week in startups was a tribute to what you did here with This Week in Tech. And yourself, Dave
which is,
Weiner,
by the way, a tribute to Mel Allen and This Week in Baseball. So
This Week in Baseball.
If I owned it, I would have kept it, but I couldn't. Well,
and here's the great thing, that yourself, I think, Dave Weiner creating the RSS attachment, and then of course the Podfather Adam Curry. Yep. All these people were inspirations for an entire generation. And if you look at Kevin Rose, myself, Alex, Molly Wood, you trained all of us on how to do this. You did this before podcasts existed. And All In would never have existed if it wasn't for that. And then I don't think President Trump would have been elected if it wasn't for All In.
Oh, my God.
In many ways, Leo, the dominoes have fallen. And
it's my fault.
Literally got Trump elected.
Is this the blame Leo portion of the
Absolutely. No, I mean, people.
You started so well, Jason.
Absolutely.
And then you just, you
went
just
right
had
off a cliff. Yeah.
No, apparently Leo pushed us off the cliff. So, Leo, how does it feel to have crashed the global economy?
Absolutely. Yeah. No tariffs then.
These tariffs are actually Leo's
Thanks,
fault.
Leo Laporte.
Throw tomatoes.
No, All In, and its name implies, was a bunch of poker buddies, right?
Well, yeah, the origin story is I had Sachs and Chamath on This Week in Startups so many times. Chamath was coming out of a CNBC hit, and he was like, let's do a podcast together. Like I couldn't get my point across. CNBC goes so quick. It was very frustrating to like talk about what we're doing at his venture firm. And I was like, sure, come on This Week in Startups on Friday. He goes, no, I want to do a new thing. I'll interview you about your startup investments. You ask me about my Series A investments, yada, yada. And I said, okay, great. Let's call it All In. I produced it internally for 2 years. And then it became so big that we hired a CEO. Then I begged my partners. We wound up having Sachs and Freeberg on the next episode because we were talking about COVID and we couldn't play poker. We couldn't see each other. So it was like a COVID baby, basically.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
podcasts.
Yeah, like a lot of podcasts because we had nothing to do. We couldn't see each other. I mean, God, it's so weird to think about those days when we were locked down here in California, or when I was in California.
5 years ago.
Was it 5 years ago?
March 17th,
and we still don't know what happened. I mean, this is so infuriating. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's and then I asked him like, hey, let's do a conference, guys. They're like, I don't want to do a conference. Then the conference basically becomes bigger than TED or, the
What was there was an All-In conference?
We have an All-In summit that makes large amounts of money, tens of millions of dollars now.
That's why I don't know about it, because I can't afford it.
Well, it's $7,500 a ticket, but then we do scholarships for the fans. You guys are both invited. I have an allocation of tickets if you want to come, and that's become kind of a big
charity
deal.
case, Jason.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I said guest. You'll be a VIP guest.
Do I get a special gray badge? Oh yeah,
you get a gray hair like me. Yeah, you and I with our gray
case
hairs
over there. You see?
No, we'll put you in the VIP with all the other CEOs. Yeah.
Anyway, congratulations, because it's really really great to see that success of that, and it's one of the top 10 podcasts in the world now.
Yeah, people when they ask me about my job, co-hosting Twist with Jason, they often bring up All In, and I'm like, that show it has really crossed over, I think, into
very strange
the public consciousness in a way that I would not have expected for a show that is that nerdy. And I say that with nothing but love and respect, because I dig the nerd stuff. Sorry.
Well, and I learned my moderation skill in many ways from, my time here on TWiT with Leo, and then also McLaughlin Group, which I
copied my whole life. That's all I've ever done is copy John McLaughlin.
No, you're being facetious.
Yes. Bye. Wrong. I loved that show.
Well, he had a thing.
I did a pilot for CNET when CNET was first starting. I was the third employee, and I had Dvorak on, Fred Davis, Stuart Alsop, and Gina Smith. And it was a copy of the McLaughlin Group.
Yes.
And basically, I've had the same idea for the 30 years.
It's a pretty
never
great
stopped.
Idea. Well,
because I loved that. He was a Jesuit. My friend Will Hurst was his student. He was a very smart professor
of the Pope. Yeah. I mean, they were known. I went to Severian High School in Brooklyn, New York, and Bay Ridge. And then I went to Fordham, a Jesuit school. So
my dad went to Regis and Fordham.
Sure. Well, that is the path. If you were a Catholic, you would want to go to a good Jesuit school. Yeah. Yep. And Regis was a good Catholic school.
We have a regular Jesuit on the show, as you know, Father Robert, who is right now living in the Vatican, where he is kind of, really, he won't say this, but he's a special counselor to the popes. Yeah. He got the Pope on Skype and Zoom.
Amazing. Pope AI.
That has to be the
Pope.
most insane job. Like you're sitting there with like the Holy Father himself, the vicar
he tells
of Christ
stories.
And you're like,
it's crazy.
Unmute, Pope, unmute. Like,
he talks about going down into the catacombs under St. Peter's.
Wow.
And there's a table of cardinals sitting around playing D&D.
Really advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Really?
Yes.
They're rolling a 30.
And they ask him to join. The Pope comes over to the house on weekends to watch the soccer games. Not lately. The Holy Father's not feeling well, but it's wonderful to have an inside. I feel like it's the same with you, Jason. It's an inside look at the rooms where it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
TikTok.
Don't stop.
TikTok. Honestly, even though my son, and I always have to make this disclaimer, made his bones on TikTok, became a TikTok star, has a cookbook now, has a restaurant he's opening on Bleecker Street. Got to get over there in next to John's Pizza in Manhattan. But it all started on TikTok for him. Like a lot of people, TikTok got people started. Then in 2017, Trump said, it's a Chinese tool. We're getting rid of it. The Biden administration and Congress passed a ban.
A law
against TikTok, said sell it by January 19th, the day before Inauguration Day, or we will shut you down. Apple and Google went along with it. They took it out of the store. And then Pam Bondi, the attorney general, wrote him a note saying, don't worry about it. President Trump extended it by 75 days. He's looking for some sort of deal. It looks like Larry Ellison, according to the New York Times, has the inside track with Oracle. The ban ran out Saturday. The 75 days pause ran out on Saturday. Trump announced a second 75. What happened? Did TikTok stop being an enemy of the people? Or did Jeff Yask make a call to President Trump?
I think Trump realized that TikTok was good for his reelection chances, so he 180'd on that, much like he 180'd on crypto. I mean, this has been his MO.
He 180s all the time.
I mean, one of the things he does particularly well is find a trend, insert himself into it, and bring those people into the tent, something the Democrats should think about.
No, he's kind of a genius at that. I will give him credit for that. He
has a couple of things he's savant like. And in this case, Leo, he realized, to Alex's point, there's a lot of young people who love this. And so, and there's a lot of Gen Xers and in between who love podcasts. There's a lot of people who love crypto. I'm just going to grab each of those constituents one by one and figure out what is it that they want. Okay, they want to get rid of Gary Gensler. They want to trade meme coins. Great, I'm in. Oh, they want to have TikTok and they want to figure out how to do it. Great, I'm in. And what he's going to do with TikTok, I have some inside information here. It's not a public company, so I can say that is, it's going to get sold. They're negotiating it.
China has to agree to that. Is that not right?
Well, they have to agree to a sale, of course, because they're on the board of the company. If you have a Chinese company, all the data and the control of the company, and in fact, the company itself belongs to the Chinese government. There's just
because of Project Texas, American TikTok data has been stored on Oracle servers in Texas for some time now, right?
Allegedly,
yes.
Yeah, we don't know what access. Yeah.
So there's some of that occurring. What's going to happen is it will either get shut down because of the tariff issues. So these two things are being dovetailed. China's not happy about the tariffs, obviously. They will use TikTok as a bit of a cudgel, right?
Trump says, I'm considering, if China lets us buy TikTok, then I'm considering lowering tariffs. That is the silliest thing I have ever, the most trivial possible reason to lower tariffs.
Absolutely. So this is where, like, trying to understand the logic of all this beyond, Trump likes to be the main character. Trump wants to negotiate a deal. That's his identity. That's what he wants to do. So this is all going to be a grand reconciliation with China. Taiwan, TikTok, tariffs, the three Ts.
That would be interesting. If he could strong-arm China into making some concessions on Taiwan, you think that's what's going to happen?
I think we're going to go back to. We'll go back to one. I'll let you go after this, Alex.
You can't sell out Taiwan, Alex. We're so dependent on China. Taiwan,
it's going to be back to the one China policy, which was China.
It was kind of don't say, don't tell.
Basically, exactly what it was. Just like you could be gay in the military, just don't hit on your supervisor, superior. Just keep it low key, everybody. It's fine. And so that's what's going to happen here. I think they'll work out the small tariff issues over the coming weeks. Stock market comes back, and then they will work on the grand reconciliation. But it has to be spun out because it is too much of a dependency in terms of spying on Americans, which they've been caught doing. It's too much of a dependency. And it's a law now. And Alex, you were looking into this last week for us. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a law. So Trump doesn't get to break the law, as we see. He can bend it.
Wait a minute.
He can bend it, but at some point, people will stand up.
Trump seems to make a habit of breaking the law, but because nobody can enforce the law, and Congress won't enforce it, and the courts are being ignored, I mean,
yes,
he doesn't care about the law.
I think John Gruber from Daring Fireball actually had the best bit of text about this. I can't improve on it, so I'm just going to read Gruber's point. He says, there is no mechanism in law for the president to issue any such extension. What he's saying is what he said the last time. He's instructing AG Pam Bondi not to enforce the law, and pinky swearing that U.S. companies that are breaking the law to keep TikTok available won't be held responsible for it. It's a complete abdication of the law. You cannot just not do things, unless it turns out you can. Which is blowing my mind. If I speed, I get a ticket.
I know.
If Trump breaks literally the law that he was previously in favor of, apparently we just go,
doesn't matter.
What can we do?
Court can order him to do things, doesn't matter. Unless they're willing to send military force in, doesn't matter. So
sad.
Here's the bigger question. Is really TikTok more of a threat, than Facebook and X.com? Chinese propaganda and Russian propaganda all over both sites. This week, Facebook abandoned is implemented its new X.com style community notes in favor of moderation. And if Chinese government wants information about American citizens, they can buy it on the open freaking market because we have no privacy laws in this country. Right? Data brokers will sell my social security number to Ping the minute he asks.
The whataboutism argument can be made convincingly. And so,
but it's sticking your finger in the dike when the whole thing is falling apart.
It's totally valid, except here in the United States, if Zuckerberg or somebody were to do abusive things, or certainly in the EU, if you were to abuse your data power, there are ramifications. We can argue if they're speeding tickets and the fines aren't too much.
Yes, not here.
And so in the West, broadly, we have control over these companies. We can tighten screws. We can vote for people who want to tighten the screws. The problem with a Chinese company is they can spy on Americans, that they can spy on the kids who live with their parents, who are in our government, or whose parents are in the Secret Service, the CIA, whatever it is. And so there is a distinct material difference between a Chinese company having access to 100 million phones and Zuckerberg. Right. So,
by the way, Instagram is the beneficiary of this, right? Obviously.
I think Amazon's going to win it. I think I can.
Amazon. You think? Wait a minute. Hold on. Is this your inside scoop?
Yes.
So everybody thought Larry Ellison and Oracle had the inside track. Amazon put in a last-minute bid. You think Bezos is going to get it?
I'll tell you my game theory here.
Jassy.
Yeah. Here. Well, no.
No. Wait a minute. Jassy is the CEO. Who owns Amazon?
So actually, who owns Amazon? We do via our index funds. Just to be clear.
So here's why Amazon wins it. This is, I think, the likely 80% scenario. Bezos, as you saw, his fiance and Bezos were at the inauguration. They're getting married. Congratulations on the nuptials.
They're going to have Princess Di style wedding. Yeah,
fantastic, great. He deserves it. He's done such a great job with Amazon. We all benefit from it.
Is he kind of dialed out from Amazon now? Does he not really have anything to do with it? I think
he's enjoying his life and he's got other pursuits. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come back like a Steve Jobs type thing at some point when he has had a great time being Jeff Bezos. Right. But here's why I think he wins. Trump likes to have deep relationships with successful people, and he likes to build consensus with them. He's got that with so many people around him, from Jeff Yass, who's the major investor in TikTok, et cetera. And Bezos owns the Washington Post. Bezos has a house, that he bought.
He's been kissing up to Trump. There's no question about that.
He's been making some donations and getting involved in politics. And AWS had a very big contract with the government that got canceled, if you remember. So it would be great for their relationship. It would also make the most sense because it doesn't give Zuckerberg a run of the table. There's really only one independent, viable social network outside of the Meta collection, which is Twitter X and TikTok. And if TikTok went to Amazon, that would balance the table a bit.
Amazon, that's true.
Yeah. What about Twitch and Discord? Do those count? I'm not trying to nitpick here. I'm actually legitimately.
Amazon owns Twitch. Discord is still independent.
Yeah, they're too small. We're talking about tens of millions of people, and
they don't.
TikTok, the
Chinese government has already said it will not sell the algorithm. You think that's?
They don't need it.
They don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to look,
all you really want is the users. I
think 2 years ago, yeah, you need the algorithm. If you look at the progress that X, Instagram, and basically everybody's making on the algorithm, I think they're within 90% of spitting distance of whatever TikTok's doing with the algorithm. I mean, Instagram's been basically ruined by it. I mean, if I open Instagram, it's all bulldogs now and barbecue.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and I'm like, I came here to see my friends and curate this list, and you've now, I gotta go deep into the settings because Zuckerberg loves to bury stuff deep in the settings, but I gotta find somewhere in the settings to go back to what I want, which is my friends. It's giving me I'm getting White Lotus actors. I mean, it's brutal. I will say Amazon is the lead candidate here. And if they do get it, that'd be pretty great because...
What about Larry? Is Ellison... I mean, he's not going to be happy if he doesn't get it.
I don't think it makes sense for... I mean, if he gets it, great. Then you have an independent company, and I don't know if...
That really balances things, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he would make it an independent spin out. That's the other possibility, to just take the thing public. The really interesting thing that's going to happen is we'll have a sovereign wealth fund with at least 25 to 50% of these shares. That's what Trump is really negotiating. Trump loves the idea of the U.S. government cashing up. He loves the idea of us owning, like, let's say this becomes $1 trillion company, which it could, and the U.S. government owns $250 billion, and that's funny money, the government. That would be pretty great for his legacy. I don't know how it's legal. I've never heard of a government.
The law says you can't do a deal that doesn't involve the transfer of the algorithm.
But it's just a license. We have a new license. It's called TikTok license. Who wants an algorithmic
choke
license?
On my keyboard.
It's a new license to print money. It's called a social media license.
Why do we have Congress? Like what?
No, we don't have Congress. That was your mistake.
It'll be back. Here's what you have to do: put up reasonable candidates and win an election, and that's what's going to happen.
Don't you think Trump thinks that the clock is ticking? He has till 2026 to get this done.
He knows it.
He knows that.
Yeah, he knows. I think
especially if you tank the economy, because that's all people vote their wallets. That's
it's the economy, stupid, right?
Yeah,
James Carville.
That's your boy, James Carville.
Yeah, he talks like John C. Dvorak.
He's getting more and more. Oh. He's getting more and more. I don't know what that is that's going on there.
I want to make a point.
I'm a wit's end here with the Republicans and the Democrats. Somebody get me a scotch.
To the senior citizens home. What's going on here? All right, put the cigar down and listen for a second.
It's not lit, ladies and gentlemen.
Not lit yet.
It's his house. He can do.
Is it a Cohiba? It looks like a Cohiba. What do you got there?
This is I have a brand I like, El Rey de Mundo.
Oh yeah, I've smoked.
It's really nice, really nice. Yeah, they come with a paper wrapper, and they do what's called a rectangulare, which is a square cigar, where they make it in a press box. Very, very.
I neither smoke nor drink anymore, but when I did smoke cigars, I used to love them. The best cigar I ever had was hand rolled in the window of the somewhere in the Dominican. Ooh. And the draw was perfect.
Smooth.
It was incredible.
You can have a cigar once a quarter.
My kids won't let me. And I honor
you and I go for a little walk and talk.
Okay.
Do a little walk and talk.
The only problem is you can't stealth smoke a cigar.
No, you come back like a factory.
You're going to smell for days.
Days.
My wife used to make me take my clothes off and leave them on the porch.
Yes. Yeah. Which basically was coming back from any bar in the 80s and 90s. Remember how you would smell after you came back from a bar?
Yeah,
that was terrible.
Okay,
go
ahead, Alex.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
Alex had a point.
20 minutes ago. Sovereign wealth fund, Trump, TikTok. Let's say it's worth $500 billion. Let's be generous here. Currently, over the past year, as of March 2025, the national debt has risen by $4.87 billion per day. So that would give us less than 2 months of equivalent wealth. So to me, the entire idea of sovereign wealth fund, TikTok, et cetera, is pretty much a complete waste of time and air. So I know that Jason's right. Trump wants to do it.
He looks at Saudi Arabia and looks how they throw that money around. And he says, why not us?
Well, because we're not a theocratic monarchy, nor are we predicated on a single source of national wealth.
Is this the dynamic of Twist, is that Jason tells you to look something up.
Yeah,
you tell him what the law is, and then he says, "Yeah, but that doesn't matter." Is that the dynamic?
I think we're going to see these things will pile up. Like, this is my prediction.
They're starting to.
Yeah, these things start to pile up. And then, like last time, people will be like, oh, it's lawfare. And like, yes, there has been lawfare on both sides, obviously. But then there's breaking the law. And then there's the fair execution of laws. And I think Trump is once again building up a bunch of resentment and a bunch of problems. And that one or two of these cases will stick. And I think this deportation of people without without due process, which they don't have, but it would be common sense to do as Americans. And then this case where like you have to apply the law, there's going to be judges who will stick it to him. And these cases will start to stick. And then we're going to really be in a weird position again.
Well, you understand the fear of liberals like me is that Trump will ignore judicial orders. In fact, he's already doing it.
Constitutional crisis. Yeah.
And that's a constitutional crisis. And
there we go.
That doesn't end well in any case, in any situation. Bless you, Alex. Let's take a little break. We do have, I think we have in our contracts with our sponsors, a no politics, no sneezing, and no sex clause. So, Alex, I'm gonna have to throw you off the show now. I'm sorry.
I fully understand. I will go in and do
No. I'm kidding. Stay right here. We got a little more to talk about. We're not done. It's great to have Alex Wilhelm here. His newsletter, must subscribe newsletter, cautiousoptimism.news. Anything with the word optimism in it, you got me, because I am not really. I'm teetering on the brink of despair. So anything that you can do to bring optimism into my life, I'm going to be happy about.
Can I brag for a second? I have
Please
the world's tiniest brag. Cautious Optimism is on Substack, and they rolled out some new charts for who's doing the best. And Cautious Optimism is number 60 on the Technology Rising.
Wow!
Now in the top 200 of technology Substacks by revenue. Oh,
okay.
It's slow growth, but I'm having a lot of fun. Basically, I don't have an editor apart from my friend who takes out the commas, and so I just get to kind of go wild every morning, and then I go work with Jason. So it's a nice life.
I just read something what was it? Somebody who had been working at Amazon went to work somewhere else, and he said Amazon always took the adverbs out of all my memos, which was the right thing to do, by the way.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, at 7:30 in the morning when I'm writing my newsletter, I think that I'm a literary genius, and then no one actually agrees with me.
Yeah, and comma blunder was what my English professor used to call it. Comma blunder. Too many commas.
Not enough commas. We need more M dashes.
Cautious Optimism. How much does it cost to subscribe?
It's free, or you can give me about $100 a year for all of it, but it's about 80% unpaywalled.
It's really great. I highly recommend it. And I'm not logged in because, by the way, I wish Substack could figure this out. I can never log into Substack because I subscribe to one and then because I don't use the same email all the time.
Right.
And it doesn't work very well if you have a custom email for everything you subscribe to.
That is for us old school people who like to use the plus and sort our emails so people don't sell our emails or whatever. Yeah, it's a problem. I have to say the platform is really advancing over at Substack, and they should sponsor this program because everybody who's on the program.
Turn them down.
Why?
You know why?
Oh, no.
Because some of our hosts think they're Nazis.
Oh, stop. You have to get control of the radical folks who are dictating what happens on TWiT. That's not their choice. They're not Nazis. Stop. They
had a bunch of white supremacists.
Lisa sells the ads.
Yes, so does the internet.
So does the internet.
So does Reddit. I mean, listen.
It's kind of my attitude too.
Yes,
but they were paying them money.
No, I think they were letting them publish, and then they weren't choosing to pay them money.
They didn't subsidize them at front.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I think this is the problem is we've gotten to a point where people who disagree with each other can't talk.
We're all so sensitive. Yeah.
Everybody's so sensitive. Like my message to people is we survived Trump 1. We'll survive Trump 2. You will survive this. Don't have despair. Take action. If you really are upset about what Trump is doing, it's very simple. Or you're upset about what Elon's doing or what I'm doing or anybody else. You have the right to change the channel. You can have an upside down dumb Trump thing. You could have 10 of these. You could be Bob Dylan in Subterranean Homesick Blues. Leo's in the basement.
Okay, Jason, all of that's great. But do you know who sells the ads and runs the business of TWiT? It's his wife.
My wife.
Yes.
So it's not an employee.
She has no input. No. She doesnn't have an opinion on Substack. She'd take anything from me.
No, Substack.
I like Substack. I subscribe to many Substack newsletters.
And listen, and you know what? And if you don't like Substack, there's Beehive. I use Beehive.
I love Beehive too.
Beehive is great.
Beehive's great.
Tyler's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And then, by the way, if you don't like either of those, there's an open source project, Ghost. You can roll your own if you want and put up your own server. This is America, folks. You get to choose.
Use microblog.
You're not a victim.
And I tell everybody to use microblog because it cross posts everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's great.
Well, wait,
I love
is microblog a paid service? What is this? Because I need a solution.
Oh, you're looking for a solution. At least check it out. It is the whole idea is indie web, right?
Okay,
so
like
it is
that.
Posse, which is post on your own site and syndicate everywhere.
That's what I need.
Yeah, micro.blog. It's a really great project, and I've been very happy. Leo.fm, my blog is hosted there. And you can do your short posts. Now, the only thing, Jason, you should know, it does not post to X for some reason. I think that's because Elon cut off the API.
Yes, the API access. Yes, he's doing the Facebook thing.
But it does post to LinkedIn. It posts to Mastodon. It posts to Blue Sky. I think it posts to Threads. It posts everywhere.
I'm signing up. Yeah.
I really take a look at it. I pay $10 a month. You can do it for $5 a month. But I want to support. Yeah.
I love this new.
Manton Reese is the guy behind that.
I don't know how you feel about this, Leo, now, but I love that we have now moved to a point where a significant number of people are comfortable contributing to the media they want to see, even if maybe
we have to.
Yeah, because if you want to see it exist
everywhere.
And it doesn't have to be everybody who does these contributions, but it's super helpful because, you want to, if you want to see content today, become a TWiT club member. Go to Club TWiT.
Thank you. You know about that.
I'm a member. And if you go to
Jason, I had no idea. That's very nice.
It's only $7 a month, but you want to see it. And you know what? I'm on YouTube and the algorithm. This is, you were doing your programming. You had like your graybeard programming show, and there's like 12 people watching. I'm one of the 12. This thing can't exist. Graybeard's programming.
I love you, Jason. You are so sweet.
Can't exist if you don't pony up.
Isn't he the best, the world's best suck up? He really is good.
Listen,
he's like this.
I like to give credit where credit's due.
People
don't even know podcasting was created by you three. No. If it wasn't for you and Dave and for Adam Curry, this would not exist.
Dave and Adam deserve the credit. There were a number of other shows that were around. I came a little later to the game,
but you had the first web
October 2004, so it was pretty close to the beginning, but still.
Yeah. You were the first web show, though. I mean,
maybe
think about it. And I think also maybe, when did Dignation start?
Oh, man, it's such a good show.
It's back, by the way.
It's
Kevin
back, I know.
And Alex have brought it back. They were at South by.
I spoke at the South by event. It was fun.
Did you? At the Dignation?
I went to the Dignation. It was fun.
Oh,
it was
great.
It was kind of interesting, generationally, to see, all
we're
these
all
folks.
old now, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they were 20-somethings, and it was so funny.
I was old when they started.
Exactly. Well, Kevin Rose was like, I remember being at the last Dignation, and Kevin Rose, I said, Kevin, why are you stopping this? You're peaking. And he said, I don't want to be like a 50-year-old guy drinking beers on a couch with Alex.
Now
I want to get married and have kids. And you know what? They're back, but now they're drinking wine.
Are they drinking wine now?
And beer from Japan.
And they only do a show every few weeks. They're not. It's a nice, relaxed schedule.
They're not doing it for the money. Obviously, it's not a business, but it's fun.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, great to have both you and Alex on the show, and it is nice to see you again, Jason. I missed you. You're a great guy, and everybody said, "What are you crazy? You putting Calacanis on there? What are you nuts?"
People associate me with this administration. It makes me crazy because
people think you're MAGA. They think
I'm MAGA, and I'm like, guys, the all-in audience, like half of them hate me because they think I'm a libtard or whatever, and then everybody who's on the left hates me and they think I'm MAGA, and I'm like, guys, I've always been independent. I will remain independent. And if they do something stupid like let Biden go out to a debate when he's debilitated, I will call that out. And
it wasn't good.
It wasn't good. And if they deport people without due process and send them to a sadistic prison,
really
I'm going to speak up at that. My friends are very upset at me for saying the word sadistic. I'm like, how would you describe a prison with 300 people per cell without beds where they get to go outside for 30 minutes? I don't care how terrible, the crimes they committed are. You don't want a person who's, a gay
especially without due process,
getting looped into them without due process. It cost us nothing to put these people who we're deporting in a way station. You could put them in Gitmo, like for 30 days and just make sure they have a chance to not send somebody's dad to a sadistic, crazy prison in El Salvador that's pitched for its sadism. Right. It's pitched as a deterrent.
The most appalling thing I ever saw was Kristi Noem standing in front of
that was gross. I mean, that's going to. This is what I tell my friends on the right. The things that are going to make this administration derail, and you're going to lose the midterms, is this constant sadistic trolling. Like, people don't like it. I don't like it. You don't like it.
No,
nobody.
It's not good.
The only people it works for is like the 30% or maybe even 10% of like the most hardcore MAGA people. Like, they might love it. Nobody else does. Yeah. It just seems uncouth and it's cruel, and nobody likes cruelty. It really gets my ire up.
I completely agree with
the human rights stuff. It really pisses me off.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not laughing at this. It's a serious thing, very serious. Yeah. But Alex Wilhelm keeps saying, do the ad.
Do the ad. Okay. So who's the ad for?
I don't know anymore. I don't know.
Chat, and Leo keeps going, we're going to take a break. Oh, by the way, Jason, have you heard
I am so bad about this.
Like 30 minutes.
No, Leo and I get together. The show goes off on
It goes right downhill.
It goes right to the tangent.
Oh, no, it's a great show. I just don't want to forget to actually make the money,
Thank you. And Lisa thanks you also, Alex. I appreciate it. Our show today brought to you by, I know you guys know this, Coda. Coda. Great, successful startups run on Coda. Turning your back. Yes, there you go. See, there's somebody right there.
Love Coda.
The Twist 500 that we mentioned earlier runs entirely on Coda. The website.
Let me tell you what Coda is, Leo.
Yeah, would you?
You ever use a wiki and you're like, this is great. I got all my documents in one place. Yeah. Then you ever use a database and you're like, this is great. I got everything organized in a nice database. Then you use like some scripting to connect them and do interesting workflow. And you're like, oh, like Lotus Notes. This is incredible. Imagine it was all one product and you paid once. A very reasonable fee, I might add. And then you don't have to buy other SaaS products. Like, you want to do your OKRs, you want to do project management, you want to build a database, you want to do show notes for your podcast. It's all in one place. And you log into one place and it just works. And they have a template library to do everything. Somebody pull up the template library. You would need a template. You type in Coda templates.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. Everything's been done for you.
Yeah.
And then I have young people on my team, like 2 or 3 of the people on my team at my venture firm. They are so good at listening to a process we do that takes 20 minutes and that's done 100 times a week. And then they use Coda and then it's now automated. And then we don't make mistakes. We have one source of truth and, your business, your life will run efficiently. I love Coda.
It launched in beta 5 years ago. In fact, it started as a napkin sketch, right? Now you can take your napkin sketch and put it into Coda, and like 50,000 other startups get your startup off the ground. Teams all over the world working on the same page. It's the flexibility of docs, the structure of spreadsheets, the power of applications.
Yes.
The intelligence of AI, all built for enterprise. Coda's seamless workspace facilitates deeper collaboration. Yes. And greater creativity, giving you more time to build. If you're a startup team looking to increase alignment and agility, Coda can help you move from planning to execution in record time. But you do have to do this for me. You have to go to the website, coda.io/twit. Remember that. That /twit's very important. If you go there today, you'll get 6 months free of the team plan for startups. coda.io/twit. Get started for free and get 6 free months of the team plan. I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't do this. Coda.io/twit. Even
let me tell you,
you could use Coda as an individual, couldn't you? I mean,
well,
you
I was
don't have
about
to be
to
a
say,
team.
if you want to get a job, like let's say you're a young person, if you know how to use Coda and you know how to do the workflows in it, which I think you can learn in under 2 hours and you can perfect in maybe 10 hours of building a couple of sample projects, you will instantly have 10 job offers for 6 figures. There is a whole group of people. It's kind of like in the old days, if you knew how to blog or edit videos, you would instantly get hired. This is the equivalent. It has a dramatic impact on startups. If you pull up twist500.com, you will see Alex and my team are in this twist500.com. I said, I want to build this, list of the top 500 companies. This site is built in Coda. Now,
so you can publish from Coda to the public web?
Yes, you can use your own domain name. So this is our domain name. And
that's cool.
You can now go here.
And this is updatable for you easily, this table.
Yes.
That's very cool.
And if you click on it, you can open up the record of those companies. So what we're trying to do here is I said to Alex, hey, let's make a database of the top 500 companies that are private.
This is a great idea.
So we can track them. And, you're a fan of this kind of stuff. I was going to hire a developer for like $150,000 a year to do this project. Instead, I used the code coda.io/twit, and I got it for 6 months for free. And now the next 6 months I'm paying.
No, you didn't use the code. Come on.
No, I didn't. I'm paying since day one. But I have to tell you, like startups,
I think you should pay for stuff like this. Yeah. But if you're a startup and money's tight, take advantage of that. 6 months free. Coda.io/twit. You know what? They are missing such a bet by not having ads on All In. I don't understand. Or you should just do a show, Jason Calacanis pitches, and you just pitch stuff.
I mean, I love doing it. I literally got my first...
You're really good at it.
Well, the secret is, like you, I only do ads.
It's genuine.
Promotion for whitelisted companies. It's only if we like the company.
Right.
And that makes it so easy. I turn down
I agree.
I turn down so many sponsors like you. I know you do this as well. I'm not going to say any sponsors' names or potential sponsors' names, but if I see that they have bad reviews on Reddit or people are complaining about the product, we're just like, yeah, it's not a fit. And I have like maybe a half dozen folks who every year try to buy ads from us, and I know you do too, who you just say, you know what, it's not worth
all the time.
Yeah, it's not worth having my listeners complain when they sign up for the service and they're getting billed for something they don't like.
Our club Twit Discord suggesting a new show for you and Alex called This Week in Pump and Dump. Where
hey, I pump one advertiser and then we dump the bad ones.
Exactly.
I love it.
It's all very whitehead, but Jason does need a ski house in Niseko. So if we're going to do another show,
stop.
I was watching the F1 race in Japan this morning.
Same.
In Suzuka. Love it. Terrible race. It was
race.
The most boring ever. The goddamn grass wouldn't even catch on fire. I was hoping something would happen.
I know. Bring back qualifying when at least the grass was doing something interesting. It didn't rain.
Every year they have this problem. The grass catches on fire at Suzuka. I don't understand why it's the only track.
They're riding on grass?
No.
They go off track sometimes by accident.
Oh, and they light the grass.
The cars send sparks.
Now I want to watch it. I mean, actually,
the race was terrible. Lewis didn't do well.
Alex, we're doing All In at this Miami F1. Is that a bit major F1? Yeah. If you guys want to come, you'll be my guest. We literally have the best.
Don't say that if you don't mean it.
No, I have like 10 VIP tickets. We have the #1 overlook. You guys are my guests if you want to come. You got to get your own flight. So I'm not putting you up or anything. But if you want to show up, I got the VIP tickets lined up for you guys.
Last year to Vegas.
Fun.
And it was the most expensive thing I have ever done.
Well, here you're free. You're on the arm.
It was outrageous. And it wasn't even good seats because if you're have you ever been to an F1 race, Alex? I know you're a fan.
No, I was going to go to Austin this year with my dad, but I'm not quite sure if I'm child available.
Don't get the grandstand seats because we're sitting on. I thought, hey, this is gonna be great. We're on the strip. It's the fastest part of the track. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah, it's the fastest part of the track. Boom. That's it.
Yeah. No, we're at like
boom. That's it.
We have like a viewing platform that's the curve or something.
I have learned there are better places to sit than the grandstand seats on the strip because they're going 200 miles an hour. It's great to go once because you hear it and feel it. You don't see that on TV. You don't get it on TV.
I'm fascinated. I can't wait to go. If you go,
you're gonna start looking into the technology of it, Jason. It's kind of that's what got me.
I actually have been looking at this racing technology. Got invited to go like do some track racing, and then I was looking at the new Corvettes. I used to own a C6 Corvette, which I loved, and these new ZR1 is going to be the greatest Corvette sports car ever made. And then there's an E-Ray, which is like half electric, half combustion engine.
It's
and
like
people
a hybrid.
are losing their minds over it.
Yeah.
The amount of horsepower. It's crazy what's happening with sports cars.
Oh, don't tell Lisa. She really wants a vet. She loves vets.
She deserves a vet. There's like 5,000 C8s on, because I've been deep in this rabbit hole right now. There are like 5,000 of them they overbuilt. And so she can get a great deal. You can get like into a C8 now, like a slightly used one for $60K.
What?
A new one for like 70 or 80. Yeah, Lisa should get one immediately.
Oh man, don't tell me that.
Life is short.
I'm due for a midlife crisis.
It's not a midlife crisis. It's the greatest sports car ever made. Literally, people are like, this thing is better and holds its value more than the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis right now.
They changed this as mid-engine now, right?
Yeah, it's mid-engine.
Yeah. So
it's all-wheel drive. The E-Ray version is all-wheel drive, which is controversial. And then they're coming out with the ZR1, which is 1,000 horsepower. Now that one's $200K. That's like, but it's better than like a Bugatti or.
What's your daily driver, Jason? You still drive a Tesla?
Model Y. I have a Model Y. Yeah. I mean, the self-driving is really hard to beat because if you are listening to a podcast and you want to change it, or, a text comes in and you want to glance down and you want to change your GPS, I just feel like it's so bulletproof.
My i5 yells at me. It says, "Distracted driver, you're not paying attention."
Yeah, so does the Tesla. But I mean,
pay attention, and it's right. You should.
It relates to this. It relates to the next story on the docket, actually, because I feel like the arc of self-driving, which we've been talking about here for over 10 years since the DARPA challenge, we're kind of getting into the final innings. We're probably we?
Or is it like Zeno's paradox, where we never quite get that last 10%?
Oh no,
we're in the seventh or eighth inning. Yeah.
Do you know why Jason's right? Because they're finally taking Waymo to DC. And you do not take a regulatory risk to the Capitol where the regulators sit unless you are confident.
Great insight.
Good point.
And it's also
I'll tell you though, if a Waymo could drive Boston, then I'd be impressed.
Yeah. Those Boston
the real challenge is Providence.
Are horrible.
Providence is pretty bad too.
Prove it here. Come drive me. I mean, please God.
It's these old New England towns that were built in the 18th century and they don't,
And think about the customer base. They'll flip those things over outside of Wrigley Field or wherever. I know what's in Boston. What are those Red Sox fans are terrible. The Celtic fans,
it's never going to Philadelphia then, because the Eagles fans will put them on top of a roof.
They had to grease the poles when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They had to grease the poles downtown so they wouldn't climb up the light poles.
Yes. Yeah, they're going to have to grease the Waymos. There's your title, folks.
Grease the Waymos. That's the solution. So you're talking about the robots. Now, this is another thing that Alex Karp's talking about. And a lot, we took this week in Google and made it an AI show. It's called Intelligent Machines. And it seems to be that 2025 is going to be the year of robots. And what Karp and his co-authors say in their book is, and I believe this, AI has consumed everything it can on the internet. It's consumed all the data that's out there. What's missing is one thing that's critical to our intelligence is an understanding of physics, that if you drop a ping pong ball, it will hit the ground, and how fast. They can understand intellectually, but they need to have a sensorium. They need to get out into the world. And everybody this year is working on robots.
Yes.
The story from China is Chinese engineers are creating humanoid robots that they are terrifying, by the way. Here's one doing acrobatics. We've saw these at Boston Dynamics, right? And it's not just for factories, though. They're thinking they want to get these robots out into the real world. And that might be critical in advancing AI, is this experience of the world that we have that robots do not.
NVIDIA's going to play a major role here. They're, I think, building their own models of the real world. And
you saw what Jensen brought on stage with him, the Disney designed robot, which is pretty darn cool, but I don't know if it's
there
useful.
Are 10 different ways to sort of solve this, and Boston Dynamics and these other robots, they've built the actuators, they built the hardware out. It's understanding the real world, the physics of the real world, how to navigate the real world. And these general purpose robots are very different than the arms you see like at one of our investments, Cafe X, making coffee. Instead of using like a closed room, a closed factory with an arm that does something very specific over and over and over again, these would be general interest. So they could walk around your home, and if there was something on the floor, they would know, oh, that's one of the chew toys for the dog, or that's a scorpion, proceed, as directed for those two different possibilities, or that spilt milk and here's how to mop it up. And these are like self-driving. You're starting to see demonstrations of them. And I think this is like a 10-year arc to a Toyota Prius Model 3 moment, where we'll be sitting here 10 years from now on TWiT, and there'll be one of them walking behind you or cleaning out the shelves.
It actually may be totally in a normal robot.
Yes,
just pour my mind into one.
Absolutely.
Okay, that part scares me quite a lot, but I was with you up until that point.
Did you see the Sunday Times? Cade Metz had a
he's great.
Invasion of the home humanoid robots.
Yeah.
And it's one of those digital stories that Times does so well. Here Cade is shaking the hand of what looks like kind of a buff guy in a canvas bodysuit
with a very small head.
Actually, that's not Cade. That's
the founder of
Burnich and Neo, the company's humanoid robot. Yeah,
and that's 1X. 1X is the first to, I think, get one of these robots available for sale. And this would be like buying, I don't know, Leo, what was like the first hobbyist?
Like a Roadster before the Roadster, maybe?
It was like buying the Roadster, yeah, like a kit car, right? So this would be the equivalent of that, yeah. Or like in the PC space or the drone
I don't
space.
want this in my home.
No, neither do I. Yeah.
Okay, but the thing is, it's not just China that are building these. Here in the US, we have Figure, 1X, Agility Robotics, and a number of other companies that are.
Yeah, this is an American robot. Yeah.
So the story that we have in the show notes today is very much predicated on look how quickly China is taking advantage of its factory base and its ability to manufacture cheaply and so forth. But the pace we're seeing in AI model development and humanoid robotics domestically and also in Europe, I think is actually very encouraging. So I think here it's easy to frame this as a here comes China story, but instead I really do think that it's actually kind of a here comes the world. And everyone wants to solve this problem because paying humans to do stuff, especially very physical manual things, is hard on humans and their bodies, and also it's expensive. So I think
isn't Elon working on this?
Jason? He's got the Optimus, and he's obviously far behind a bunch of people, but catching up quickly. He's not on it. Again, how do you feel about politics?
He's busy with some other things.
Well,
he kind of got a black mark because first he showed a robot that was turned out to be a human in a suit that danced, and then
that
at
was
its
like
most recent event, the robots were controlled by humans. The robot bartenders are controlled by humans.
Which is, by the way, how my understanding is how Waymo and Cruise, that there is a safety driver.
That's how they started.
Them. That's how they started. I think that's still how most of these self-driving companies are working. They may.
That seems to be the dirty little secret of Waymo and others is that when something happens unexpected, a human back at the home office takes over.
There's an intervention specialist. They have like fancy terms for it. And I think there's going to be intervention specialists. And then the question is, how many cars or robots do they intervene with, and at what pace? There was a really interesting story that Alex and I covered where a store in New York, a chicken sandwich shop or something, had a cashier who took your orders on Zoom, and they were like this company that I'm an investor in, Athena. They had somebody in Manila on a Zoom taking your orders.
Right.
And I saw that and I was like, this is fascinating. It's an arbitrage using technology. If you didn't have Zoom, which is essentially free, and you didn't have bandwidth, which is free, you couldn't have a $1 an hour, $2 an hour cashier in New York City for a job that Americans just, let's be candid, we have the lowest unemployment of our lifetime. They won't take that job.
They don't want them.
They don't want that job. And that's this whole tariff thing and reshoring stuff. That's the whole part that breaks in the logic for me. Nobody wants these jobs. Like, how many people are like raising their hands saying, I want to build sneakers?
Is immigrants. Often undocumented, but that's who's doing those jobs.
If we, to the extent we're making clothing in factories in LA still, which we have some, it is illegal immigrants. So then you have to say, well, where's the logic in this? We're not allowing immigration, and we want to create factories with jobs that Americans are, let's just call it what it is, too rich to take. They don't want to take those jobs. So it makes no sense. And then at the same time,
let's also be fair. Those jobs don't pay enough for you to live.
No.
Right?
No, they pay double minimum wage or whatever, $15-20 an hour, which, in New York, when they
can't rent an apartment, you can't live on that.
And then you have to take an hour and a half commute to somewhere with a cheap apartment. And then
it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And those commutes increase depression, suicide, alcoholism.
Right. So they don't want them because they're not good jobs, basically. They're jobs you can't live on.
They're kind of both, they are entry level first rung jobs. And so then you have to decide, like, does any of this make sense to move jobs to the developed world where people don't want to take them and they're too expensive, when there are people who these jobs in their region are incredible middle-class jobs. So the logic kind of breaks down, but these things are going to change everything in 7 to 10 years.
Benito Gonzalez, our producer and technical director, is from the Philippines.
Yep.
What do you think, Benito? Oh, he's silent. He maybe just took a job.
About what?
Have you been
Would you work for $1 an hour producing podcasts from Manila?
Is it exploitative of us in the developed world to use people in the third world to do the jobs we don't want to do for a low amount of money?
I mean, kind of, but also not really. I mean, it really depends, if you can live on that wage in the Philippines. Like Alex said, like some of those wages here are unlivable, but over there, that's a decent middle class. That's a decent middle class wage, because the standard of living there is like, it's so much cheaper to live there. Like, it's just so much cheaper. So that money goes a lot further.
So initially these robots will be tele-robotics. They will be operated by humans.
I think in some cases, yes, they'll certainly be supervised by humans, and they're deploying them in factories right now. So in very constrained environments, doing very constrained tasks. When they get to your home, there is a possibility that you could literally hire somebody for $1 to $3 an hour to actually be the robot, like telepresence.
Oh my God. That seems so awful to me. It
seems like a Black Mirror episode.
Dystopian, yeah.
In a way, unless that person has no job prospects and it lets them feed their family.
Well, and this is why free trade, to me, and I agree with Elon, zero tariffs, free trade, this works itself out better if we can do that, plus establishes interdependence that is, in the long run, good for world peace, to be blunt. Is 1X a big contender? This is the one that the Times article is all about. 1X, is that a big?
Yeah, they're legit.
There's
contender.
Eve. That's their robot on wheels.
Super legit.
Yeah.
And right now they're doing very, very basic things, but I think they'll move up the complexity chart and speed. The thing about trade is that countries should not move backwards in terms of how much value add they do in manufacturing. So China started off doing quite a lot of relatively low value add stuff, garment manufacturing and so forth, and moved up the value chain to creating the world's electronics and so forth. And a lot of the cheaper stuff moved to other countries like Bangladesh. Why would we want to go backwards? Like, I just don't think that people understand that the margins on labor for making leggings for Lululemon are not similar to what we can do here in the United States currently with our economy. So to me, it's just very backwards to think that we should do the lowest tier of manufacturing domestically. It's very frustrating to me.
We're going to take another break. I do want to ask you guys about AI, because I'm curious what your take is on the future of AI, AGI, superintelligence, and safety. Something we talk a lot about on Intelligent Machines, but I don't get to talk to you guys as much, so I'd like to get your take. You're watching This Week in Tech with Alex Wilhelm. Great to have you from his fabulous newsletter, cautiousoptimism.news. And of course, he's a regular on This Week in Startups, along with Jason Calacanis, who started that some year. How long has it been? 15, 10 years?
It's been like,
long time.
12 or 14 years. I've done over 2,000 episodes. I started basically, I was on maybe the first 50 episodes of TWiT.
Yeah, probably you were on a lot of the early ones.
Yeah, a lot of the early ones. And, when I would come on, you would ask me about startups. And then I asked you, like, hey, would it be okay if I did this Week in Startups thing where I just talk only about startups? And, it's really a tribute to the mentorship you gave me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next week is our 20th anniversary
of
This Week in Tech.
We have to have a party. That's incredible.
We are having a party, but so we did our 1,000th episode and we invited some of the old timers on.
I remember.
One of the reasons I was happy to get you on, Jason, is because you're one of them. Yeah. Next week, we are going to ask our audience to weigh in. We're getting videos, poems, songs, pictures of how you watched, how you discovered TWiT, and it's been really fun looking at those. We'll have some of those on the show next week. Who's on the show, though, Benito? Have we?
Still only one confirmed.
Just one person.
So far, Alan Malventano is confirmed.
Okay, Alan Malventano, also a longtime member of the team. He used to co-host This Week in Computer Hardware. I would try to get Kevin Rose. He's not answering my calls, so I don't.
What?
I don't know.
I'm texting him right now.
He's busy getting drunk with
Alex.
Alex Albrecht.
I mean, it should just be like they should surprise you and just send the link to everybody and just show up. A little bit of a
maybe let's not book anybody, Benito. Maybe somebody will show up. Like Bob Hope used to show up on the Tonight Show. He just, I was across the way and I thought I'd just stop by.
I was on the lot. I just stopped by.
Never happened.
The show of old-timey accents.
I'm on the lot.
Oh, yeah. You should have called me Little
I was in the studio head's office and he told me you were celebrating talking about.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're glad you're here too.
I love it.
Alex and Jason's lovely having you on. Our show today brought to you by Now. This is a startup I don't think you know about.
Okay, hit me.
Maybe you do.
Okay.
Our friends at OutSystems. They are the leading AI-powered application and agent development platform. You know, it's a classic conundrum for every enterprise. Build or buy. You create your own software. It's great. It's very expensive. You just mentioned $150,000 a year to hire an engineer, and that's just one person. Build it yourself, but then it's exactly what you want. Or do you outsource it? You go buy some SaaS solution that's not a perfect fit, and it's a tough decision. For over 20 years, 20 now, as long as we've been around, the mission of OutSystems has been to give every company the power to innovate through software. IT teams typically have two choices. As I mentioned, you could buy off-the-shelf SaaS products for speed, but you lose flexibility. You also lose differentiation, right? Or you can build custom software, costing time and resources. But thanks to AI, there's a new way, a third path. The fusion of AI, low code, and DevSecOps automation into a single development platform. That means your team can build custom applications. It's this new thing, right? This new partner coding with AI agents as easily, as quickly, as affordably as buying generic off-the-shelf sameware. And flexibility, security, and scalability, they come standard with OutSystems. I think this is a really interesting third way. With AI-powered low code, teams can build custom, future-proof applications at the speed of buying with fully automated architecture, security, you got integrations, data flows, permissions, it's all built in. OutSystems is the last platform you need to buy because then you can use it to build anything and customize and extend your existing core systems too. Build your future with OutSystems. This is a really clever idea. Go ahead.
The thing that's really interesting, I'm looking at their website, is you can build AI agents, which are agentic, and that is going to be
the thing now.
The future is, let's say you're trying to do the scheduling for TWiT. And you've got like, hey, here's the whitelist and the Google sheet of like people we like to have on. You could build a script that says, hey, these are the open slots. If you want them, click here to be added and have that agent go. And if somebody cancels, automatically go to the
But we would never do that, Benito. Don't worry. Outsystems.com/TWiT. Learn more. My experience has always been that these AI assistants are great in conjunction with humans. That's when they really sing. OutSystems.
That is the sweet spot.
Yeah, I agree. OutSystems.com /TWiT. Thank you, OutSystems. Brand new sponsor. We're thrilled to have you.
Checking that out right now.
Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Jason,
it is the third way in the build versus buy conundrum.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole thing going on. I don't know if you heard about vibe coding, but Alex and I have been talking about vibe coding.
It's hysterical.
It's hysterical, but it's true. Like you're not going to be production ready anytime soon. It's going to be years before like we as English speakers can say, I need this tool. But it's going to be possible to make 80% of it. And that's where a partner like outsystems.com/twit would come in to help you do that final 20, 30% and make sure it works and it's stable and it's secure.
Yeah. The problem with vibe coding so this is interesting because Andrei Karpathy, who's the guy who coined this term in an X post, really didn't imply that it was for people who couldn't code. That's kind of been the meaning that it's taken. But he said it would be a great thing for a weekend project. In other words, somebody's already a coder could use it to build stuff. Because the problem, if you don't know how to code, you can't vet what the AI is giving you.
Nope.
And there's all sorts of, pitfalls down the road. If something doesn't work, how do you know how to fix it?
Or like, let's say you go tax your servers and then all of a sudden you get an AWS or a, Oracle Cloud or a Google Cloud AWS bill for $10,000 because it went rogue. Like you can make some serious mistakes here. I was vibe coding just a couple of days ago because I had bought this domain name a long time ago, annotated.com, because I paid like 20 grand for it, but I never used it. I wanted to make a service for myself where you could highlight a paragraph in a news story with like a toolbar, press the button, and it would make a new landing page with that quote or like a clip from TWiT and let you comment on it, right? You'd annotate that original piece of thing. And then I remembered I had the domain name. I was like, maybe I could vibe code this myself, but I can't. It's clear I can't. I can make a proof of concept.
Look, I think that it's interesting because Mark Zuckerberg said that Meta will this year replace some engineers with AI, and a lot of people. The CEO, founder of Replit, says you're not going to be writing code.
Amjad, I love that guy.
Yeah. Well, he said, don't teach your kids how to code because there's not going to be any jobs in a few years. You guys buy that?
No. All right. What do you think, Alex?
I think there's two different conversations going on here because there's deep systems level programming that is not going to be replicated by AI because that's more of a software architecture point. But I do think there's quite a lot of low level development that is going to get absolutely obviated. And one example of this, Amazon said in last 6 months that they were doing a bunch of, refactoring and they used AI for it and they saved thousands and thousands and thousands of developer hours. So I think that there will always be a section of development that will be reserved for humans at the wheel, if you want, because they need to make big long-term decisions. But quite a lot of stuff that is done today by humans simply doesn't need to be done by humans. Think of it as like the first industrial revolution for the process of software development. We still had humans working, but we also had big machines doing a lot of the repetitive, heavy lifting. So that's what I think we're going to see this year. So Mark's point about some percentage of Meta's code being written by AI this year, sure. Will AI replace all of their developers in the next 5 years? No, but I bet you they stop hiring at some point in time and let natural attrition kind of weed out what they don't need. So I think it does
make sense that that's the one thing a computer would be good at is writing code for computers, right? It's its native language.
And it's anything that's a limited data set, that you can master, like chess obviously was one of the first, or checkers and chess. And then eventually very complex games like Go were mastered. And I think looking at what happened with Grammarly, I think is a really good concept. Every company had like one or two people who were great writers, and the other 18 people in the company would go to them to write something. Now, I bought everybody, and I'm not going to make this a commercial for Grammarly, but which is owned by Coda, by the way. They merged.
Is it owned by or owns Coda? I was confused.
Coda, I think Grammarly bought Coda, and I
That's
had
what I heard
on, so it's now one thing. But Grammarly is such a powerful tool, and I just pay for it for my entire team, strictly so that the people don't come to me and say, "Can you edit this?"
Right.
Before I had Alex, and now everybody
you take the commas out of this.
Well, here's the thing: everybody who is a bad writer, which is most people, are bad writers, and then some people are okay writers. Bad writers became good writers. okay writers became good, sometimes great writers, but you're not going to be exceptional, have a point of view, and be an elite writer because of any piece of software, I don't believe. It's the same thing with coding. You're still going to need elite coders, but there's some things that are very easy for AI to do. So everybody just moves up the stack. And this is like, if you look at deep research on Gemini, which I pay for and is really powerful. The idea of paying a researcher to go do a research of, the human robotic companies we just did is ridiculous. If you could just do a deep research in 4 minutes, it gives you an entire overview. And it's 95% as good as the best researcher I ever hired today.
No hallucination problems?
I mean, on the margins, but if you tell it to give citations and you're paying for deep research, it will do that for you. And then you could take the report, if it really is that important, put the report into another, you can put it into Grok or ChatGPT and say, take this report and make it better and check every fact. And it will do that for you. So that's the eventuality, is multiple language models kind of checking each other's work and then show your work. If you know how to prompt and you tell it to show your work, you're going to get much less hallucinations.
Okay. And this is the two-sided coin of AI. Because on one hand, Jason's dead on. It can replace quite a lot of what human researchers do today that they get paid to do. What does that mean? It means everyone now has a researcher in their pocket for $20 a month or whatever it costs. Fantastic. Levels the playing field, makes the world a more interesting, faster, more economically viable place or vital place. At the same time, it deletes early level jobs or entry level jobs. And I wonder what we're going to do as an economy when we take out baby lawyers, baby consultants, baby this, baby that, and we replace them with AI systems. How are we going to have people move up the human value chain if there's no place to start?
That is a challenge.
I'm worried about it.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to hit the third rail of this show.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Is it the title?
All right.
And you just tell me to stuff it if you don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Doge has proposed recoding the Social Security COBOL database and their MAMA database using AI. They say the Social Security Administration looked at it a few years ago, said it would take, I think, 5 years. They say they could do it in 6 months. Yes?
Of course. I mean, upgrade every system. The thing that's being a bit hyperbolic here is that this administration wants to take away people's Social Security. They don't want to do that. They
might want to take away some Medicaid, though.
I don't think so.
No,
honestly,
I hope not.
These are the things that lose you elections.
Yeah.
And so self-preservation for any politician is to stay away from those two items. And if not, expand them. I would love to see them raise the age of like when you get Social Security, and I would love to see them.
Remember what happened to Macron when he proposed that in France?
Run out of town.
Okay, but they protest differently than we protest here in the United States.
I mean, the French and the Germans and Spain, like they'll hang you up and quarter you. I do think upgrading all these systems is going to be awesome, and there's so many games.
I mean, nobody would be against modernizing it. I think that's reasonable, but there is this genuine concern that this. Do you know these Doge kids? Are you familiar with any of them?
I know some of the people involved, like obviously Elon and my friend Antonio Gracias.
Do you know BigBalls?
I know. I know of BigBalls. I don't have a personal relationship with BigBalls.
Do you think that there are good coders, that they're trustworthy and reliable?
I think these are elite people.
They're elite. I mean, that's what they are billed as.
There's trust me, they're elite. These are elite individuals. Now,
Elon wouldn't bring them in unless they were really good.
The talent level around Elon is scary. The people who are drawn to work with him are self-selecting for two things: hardcore and extremely good at their skill, whatever it is. Now, you may not like the politics. You could have personal issues with Elon, etc. Totally fine. One thing you will not be able to say is these are not the most elite technical people in the world. He is a magnet for those people. Okay. So, period, full stop.
That's a very interesting point, Jason. And
their communication, I will say, and I've talked to them about this, and then I'll leave it at that and get your take, Alex.
Yeah, no worries.
Their communication of what they're doing has not been a 10 of 10. It's like a 7 of 10. And so I've told them, keep unpacking what you're doing with data, statistics, et cetera. And then when they say like there's so much fraud and there aren't people, going to jail, well, we have a justice system. It takes time. So there's inefficiency. I think they're hitting that pretty hard. I think if there is, in fact, fraud, and the fraud is independent of party, by the way, I'm sure there's Republicans, Democrats, and independents committing fraud in the system or taking grift, across the board. We've seen that obviously before. So that will take time. But yeah, they're going to do a great job in upgrading the systems. They also have Joe Gebbia, who's a friend of mine. So I actually know a third person very well. The co-founder of Airbnb, who's a design genius, literally like created the design of Airbnb. So don't be surprised if government systems start to have incredible UX and are fast and efficient like other countries in the world have.
Yeah. I mean, everybody agrees we need that. They're just concerned that there might be a little move fast and break things mentality about how we're going about it.
Yeah, and there is. And that's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes being made. A lot of mistakes, right?
I mean, if you want to go this fast, you're going to make mistakes. I was with Elon and I don't want to overstate it, but I was with Elon for when he took over Twitter. And if you remember then, they were like, oh my God, Twitter's going to go down. Twitter never went down. It's like the guy can land two rockets and catch giant rockets on their own. Like that's not going to be the issue. You may not agree with like how Twitter's being run and the trolling on it and freedom of speech comes with and anonymity comes with a bit of chaos. But he was able to when he took that over, and I was there for a little bit of it in the early days. He was able to very quickly figure out who was the most effective person and who was necessary. And that's the rubric in which he does these exercises. We made an XY quadrant, and on one quadrant we put extremely good at their job and incompetent. And then on the other quadrant we put absolutely necessary and completely unnecessary, irrelevant, like you don't need this person in the company. And the top quadrant is where, you want to really focus your effort. People who are extremely qualified and the job is essential. Now, if the person's extremely qualified and their job isn't essential, well, then you have a little conundrum. You've got a bounty. This is an incredibly effective person, but we don't need them. Okay, well, maybe we could find something for them to do. But when you have unqualified people, which shockingly, you might find some in our government who've been there for a long time who are actually not good at their jobs and their jobs are not necessary. I think that's kind of what you go for first is that bottom left quadrant.
I'd be more sanguine about it if they didn't keep firing and rehiring people.
That's part of the process, yeah. And that was my point.
But is that the necessary part of the process?
You could do it differently. But if they're on a time constraint to the midterm elections, maybe they're
trying to do it all in 2 years.
Trying to do it in maybe 2 years.
I acknowledge that the press could be getting this completely wrong, but Elon is not getting very kind treatment in the press. He's coming across as kind of outpaced, overmastered by the situation that he's in. He's coming across as very arrogant, but you know him, and I trust you. Yeah. So is this a problem of appearances, or is there another problem?
Yeah. I would say the communication could be better, right? And then on top of that, you have the polarization. So my handicapping of it would be half the people in the country have it out for this administration, just like the MAGA folks hated Biden and Kamala, right? So you have the polarization in our society. That's like the foundation of this is happening. And then you have an extreme, shocking approach to cutting costs and firing people and downsizing, which is a painful thing to do, which I think is probably why you're seeing this tension. And, his reputation is getting torched, in some cases because he's doing this work. And you see that with literally, sadly, Tesla's being lit on fire. This is scary stuff. I mean, obviously nobody
thinks nobody wants that.
Yeah, just don't buy the car if you disagree
that's
with
unlawful.
The politics.
And there are people who own Teslas who are not MAGA, but like Teslas.
It's scary to drive a Cybertruck, that's for sure. If you're driving a Cybertruck, it's like...
My neighbor has a Cybertruck, and he keeps it in the garage now. He used to keep it out front.
He's probably for good reason. Yeah. You carve some into it. Listen, I think all this will pass. You know, the
if we can survive it, I think that'll be nice.
I think we'll survive it. I think we'll come through the other end of it, and people will go, the government is half the size it was or a third less, just like Clinton did. You might not like how it's been done, but you might like the outcome. For the people who don't like how it's being done, they might very much like the outcome. And a more efficient government with less waste and spend is going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think they will accomplish that task. The thing I'm actually not worried about is Doge. The thing I am worried about, is the tariffs and the deportations. Like those things, I think, and the rule of law, right? Like, is he going to listen to judges, as we said earlier? Those are the things I worry about, and I'm not a fan of.
There's
I'm
a
huge
lot
fan
of things to worry about. As I saw a sign at the protests yesterday, so many things to complain about, so little cardboard. There are an almost infinite number of things to be concerned about. I would love not to be worried about Doge. I'm not sure I share your opinion of Elon. You do know him. I do not.
He's, I would say misunderstood would be an understatement, and incredibly effective. So,
I'm very curious about how this all works with the big COBOL databases, because, people, I read a lot of developer forums, and there has been widespread developer skepticism about Doge's ability to rewrite.
For instance, the lack of a date field in COBOL and being misinterpreted as people 185 years old in the database is a good example.
That does not inspire confidence, but
it means they don't understand what they're looking at. And you don't want to mess with a code base that a lot of people rely on if you don't understand it.
Okay, I'm going to take the opposite of what I think here and make an argument in favor of trying to fix this now with this little window of time. Even though personally, Leo, I'm kind of on your side of this debate. If we tried to do this under a Democratic administration, how long would it take?
Clinton took 8 years, but he did it.
But that was, I think things ran a bit better in the 90s before we had as much gerrymandering. So I think at least we're trying something. Maybe that's a bad way to look at it, but I'm a little bit skeptical of this being a possible project to take on under a different administration. And I'm more on your side of things mostly than Jason's on this particular Doge question, Leo. But I do think at least we're taking a shot at the goal.
Yeah.
Maybe
one thing, Clinton, just for people who don't know the history of it, was able to cut 400,000 jobs out of the government.
Incredible. Yeah. This will be more, I think. I'll give you one thing to feel better about, because I'm talking to some folks in the YouTube chat room on the This Week in Tech YouTube channel, which has been growing quite nicely, by the way. I know you guys are really experimenting with it. If you look at the people around Trump this time, last time he had a bunch of neocon, old school Republicans, and he lost to Democrats and he got trounced. To win back the White House, he surrounded himself with a bunch of moderate, socially liberal, fiscally conservative Democrats. Bessent, Lutnick, Elon, Joe Rogan, Chamath, go down the list of all the supporters and or people in the administration. They're all Clinton Democrats. That's what they have in common. And in order to get this stuff done, Trump didn't go to the Republican Party. There's no Mitt Romney in here. It's all socially liberal, fiscally conservative Democrats. Almost I would say the majority, 60 or 70% of the people around him fall into that, including Trump himself, who is a lifelong Democrat, who just selected the Republican Party as the vehicle that would get him elected, to the point at which he had Hillary Clinton at his wedding. And they were this. You can just look it up.
But
historically,
nobody would
Democrat.
Call anybody at the Heritage Society or the people behind Project 2025 Clinton Democrats.
No.
These are the hardest core conservatives out there. And this is the agenda that has been set for the Trump administration.
Some of it is.
We're veering into politics, so I don't want to get into that. That's something reasonable people can disagree
let's just say this. There's a lot of big projects being taken on by the technical arm of the government, now partially run by someone that we know. And let's see how they do, because they're talking a big game. And
we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice, Alex. We're going to have to see how they do.
We're in the car. So I'm in the back seat. I'm in the back seat, hoping that my seatbelt doesn't get programmed off my body. And let's hope we don't crash, because at a minimum, elections have consequences, as they love to say.
Yeah. Put this energy into the midterms, folks. I don't like to see either party control all three.
Yeah, there's an opportunity. Yeah.
Huge opportunity. There's going to be
uniparty rule is bad.
Yeah, uniparty rule bad. We all agree.
Yeah. No, I think actually there's not that much difference between the three of us on these issues. It's because we're all optimistic and hopeful for a high functioning economy, a high functioning society, and a strong nation. So like, we're just trying to discuss the best way to get there at the fastest possible speed.
It is really interesting that this is happening at a time when AI is exploding. And I do think there is an opportunity, absolutely. If AI is more than just junk, and that, by the way, that's unclear also at this point. I'm a mixed opinions on that. But if AGI really is real and superintelligence really is real, or at least if these AIs, and they seem to become more and more useful tools, there is a big opportunity right now, especially if an administration recognizes that. Now, your friend David Sachs is the AI czar.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tell me what his point of view is in all of this.
I think he wants to see America win. So
we're all in favor of that. I agree.
And I think David is one of the smartest, most considered people I've met in my life. Also one of the most effective operators, like maybe behind in Silicon Valley, Sheryl Sandberg as like a chief operating officer. So he's a true winner. And I think America will win in AI, and AGI is a very interesting concept because the goalposts keep moving. Like you have the Turing test. You have, there's like a half dozen interesting tests. The test I use is this AI smarter than any living human being? If we have an AI that's smarter than every living human being, then I think we've hit AGI. So what would define that? Well, not just playing chess, or not just writing code, but operating in the real world with like maybe these robots that we talked about earlier, general purpose robots. So you have a general purpose robot out in the world, able to solve a problem better than any human. So I think we will hit that in our lifetime, maybe in less than 10 years. And if we do, we're going to start solving problems that humans are not designed to solve. And like cancer, like it's pretty hard for us to, get to Mars or cure cancer. There's going to be problems we probably just haven't gotten around to, that it's going to, as it scurries around, the crevices of information and logic and research, it's going to solve things that we forgot, like maybe we should solve. And that's going to be pretty amazing. And humans always find more work to do. I believe that. And then abundance will be here. And so, we live in a time where if I were to ask people what they're in the modern world, like, how much are they paying for water, or, are they worried about shelter? In the United States, it's really hard to find somebody who's actually worried about food, shelter, water. We're worried about existential things. We're worried about our fame. We're worried about our kids. We're not worried. You operate
in some pretty rarefied circles, Jason.
I mean, how many people do you know are worried about calories?
Guy right out the door here who's living on the street. Maybe he's doing it because of choice. I don't know.
Probably addiction and mental illness. So we worry about those things. So exactly to my point, when I lived in San Francisco and I talked to people in the homeless industrial complex, there were more beds than homeless people. There was more food available. They were dumping food in the garbage. It really is an addiction problem. So we have a massive amount of empathy in this country. We have surplus empathy, and we have surplus calories, and we have surplus beds. Now, we may not have an affordable home in every state. We might not have, but we have the lowest unemployment of our lifetime.
Yeah.
And so we really don't celebrate how great we have it here. And it's a uniquely American trait to be obsessed with what we haven't solved yet. And that's what AI is pretty good at too. So unlimited energy leads to unlimited water. like desalinization is an energy problem.
Right.
And unlimited energy water means unlimited calories because agriculture is a function of those two previous things. We're going to live in an incredible time of abundance that exceeds the abundance we have even today that we don't appreciate. I am incredibly optimistic about this technology's ability to lower suffering, to lower healthcare costs, to lower housing costs. There's a company here in Austin that is making 3D printing cement homes, and I had dinner with the founder Jason recently. Really interesting cat. I forgot the name of the company right now. Alex will look it up real quick because he's so good at that. But this 3D printing cement company is extraordinary. They're building like dozens of homes for.
I've seen videos of it. It's remarkable.
I thought they were ugly, and then I saw them, and I was like,
no,
I want one.
Yeah,
they're really like,
and they're very practical in a lot of ways for heat and
yes.
so forth.
I mean, Adobe homes were like some of the best homes ever made. So this company.
You always cheer me up a little. It's all right. It's not.
Be optimistic.
You always cheer me up. You're an optimist, and I appreciate that.
Okay, wait. Surplus of empathy, though, I think is going a little too far.
That's your title for the show. Surplus empathy.
We need more empathy for sure.
Okay, we could use more.
Didn't Elon say empathy is a disease?
Industry, our healthcare.
Didn't Elon say that's what's wrong with the world?
He said you could have toxic empathy. All
right, guys. Let's stop talking about Elon and the government for a minute and bring this back to AGI because I can hear the screaming from the Club TWiT chat room, and they're going, "Oh my god!" Get back to technology. So I want to make a point about AGI because I think people get the definition a little bit confused. So I pulled up Google's definition of this, and they say that AGI possesses, in theory, human-like intelligence and can perform any intellectual task that a human can. Fair enough. Okay. Artificial superintelligence is when it surpasses human intelligence and can solve problems that we can't currently solve. I think quite often in the discussion of AGI, people conflate it with ASI and have higher expectations for what it is than is reasonable for the near term. So I would say that AGI should be possible under Jason's timeframe, if not a little bit faster, given what we're seeing around the world. ASI, God knows, put it 20 years out in the future. But I just want to make that point.
That's, by the way,
I think
we had Ray Kurzweil on Intelligent Machines a couple of weeks ago. It's exactly what he said, 20 years out.
That's always the number.
He said it's always 20 years. No, he's been saying 2045 consistently for quite some time. Yeah. And he said 2029 for AGI consistently. He said he told me that 30 years ago. Iconbuild.com/homes.
I mean, this is no longer, the 3D printed homes is no longer it's
a very cool
DARPA project. They're literally on East 17th Street in Austin, if you go to the east side, which was a place where they told us during Southwest 20 years ago, don't go there, you'll die. There's now
these are beautiful. Look at them.
3D printed homes, and they're being built for a fraction of the cost. And these things are going to, and if you look at the inside of them, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
This is going to change everything in the world. Cheap
and this is basically concrete.
They used a 3D printer to make those ribbons of concrete. And if you get to one of the close-ups of the walls, you'll see like it has a very 70s, not the brutalist architecture, but it has like a very beautiful.
There's a curve to it.
It has curves really nicely.
It's like that. It's like that Flintstones house you used to drive by on 280.
Yes, on the 280 by the by Black Mountain. Yeah. It's exactly like that one.
It's very interesting. Let me turn off the sound so we can watch these guys build a house. I'm going to take our last break, but thank you for cheering me up, Jason. I don't know if I buy it, but.
Join me in the delusion.
Despair is never a good place to be. So, and I do, in the long run, I have a lot of faith in this country and the people in this country.
Woo!
And I think
technology.
And I do believe in technology. I wouldn't be doing this show, or this is my lifetime, my life work. So I must believe in it a little bit. I worry. I'm a worrier. That's all. I'm just a worry wart. Jason Calacanis is here. Great to have him back. Visiting the show from he's slumming really from his hit podcast, All In. And of course, this week in Startups Twist, where he is joined by Alex Wilhelm. How are you on every week? No, you're on once in a while.
No, Alex is on every show now. Yeah,
every
3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Nice.
We do a lot of shows, and we have a lot of fun.
How come your kids keep you from doing this show, but not on
Sunday? Because if my nanny was here on Sunday evenings, then it wouldn't be an issue.
We need to get you you need a robot nanny. That's what you need.
Absolutely.
One X figure or one of the Chinese companies. Come on, y'all. Get us that robot nanny from the Jetsons, because then I would have so much. Oh, then I could go shopping and like
need to make baby stop crying. Parsing language model. How to make baby stop crying.
Baby crying.
Baby crying.
Give bottle. Give bottle.
Give bottle or put in closet. Viable. No milk. Okay.
Turn baby into paper clips.
Babies are in closet.
Our show today brought to you by Kinsta, not robots, by Kinsta. But this is great hosting that you will love to create your website, whether you run an online business, which, by the way, as you know, can be very challenging. Manage the web hosting while juggling all those other things. You don't want to worry about your web hosting. Kinsta offers managed WordPress hosting. That's the gold standard course. It has an expert team that handles everything for you. Do you know about Kinsta too?
It turns out I do, because with WordPress, it's an open source project, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And everybody goes through this experience. You decide, I can do it myself.
No. Managed. Got to go managed.
And then what happens? You forget to upgrade it. You get hacked.
Yep.
You then find your entire life is every 16 weeks, 20 weeks having to deal with some software bug, or you could use Kinsta and they solve all those problems for a very low, reasonable fee.
Yeah. I think many of us went through that stage of rolling your own WordPress.
I did many times.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I mean, it's open source, which means you can change it. And that's a great possibility if you have a full-time developer team.
Right. Kinsta's bundled up all the things you need, all the essentials, to make your site stress-free with speeds that wow your visitors. That's important, right?
Yeah.
Security that never sleeps. You really need that. And a dashboard so easy to use, so intuitive, you'll wonder why life isn't this easy. When you hit a snag, good news, you'll talk to real humans 24/7, 365 days a year. In short, Kinsta has perfected hosting for those who want a professional result without needing a technical background. They don't just host WordPress websites. They deliver blazing speed. In fact, your site could run up to 200% faster, ironclad security, reliability. And don't worry about moving. If you're on another place, no. They will migrate your entire website for free. And you get a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. When it comes to security, Kinsta's in a league of its own. It's one of the few WordPress hosting providers that backs its promises with multiple enterprise certifications. And I was so impressed by the custom control panel at Kinsta. Of course, if you need help, they've got WordPress pros, not AI chatbots, but real humans who will respond in minutes and tackle even the trickiest problems. Who uses Kinsta? I'll just give you a 3. But there's lots. TripAdvisor uses Kinsta. NASA, you ever hear of them? The National Aeronautics and Space Administration? Yeah, they use Kinsta. Indeed uses Kinsta. 120,000 businesses trust Kinsta with their WordPress websites.
One of my investments does. Calm.com. Yeah, they've been using it for a long time. And that the key thing is that they have that migration team. So whatever service you're on, you know how hard it is to migrate, Leo? That's like...
It's the miserable thing.
It's miserable.
I have lost so much content from my website as I have moved from one to another by hand myself. And there's... it's just not good.
Kinsta has a SWAT team waiting to do your migration.
Calm.com uses Kinsta?
They do. And that is a big site,
That's a huge site.
Users. Yeah.
And by the way, if you're trying to be calm, if the site is slow, that is going to raise your blood pressure. So Calm has to have good fast
Calm down, everybody. Use Kinsta. You'll be calm like Calm. Kinsta.com/twit.
If you're tired of being your own website support team, switch your hosting to Kinsta. Get your first month free and don't worry about the move. They're going to handle the whole transition for you. No tech expertise is required. Kinsta.com/twit. Get started right now. It really works. Kinsta.com/twit. No tech expertise necessary. Look if it's good enough for Calm, it's good enough for you.
And the rocket scientists at NASA have.
And NASA. And Indeed
they do. Indeed. You can stay calm at NASA when you're under a ton of pressure.
Yes, that's right.
Keep it in mind.
There you go.
Migrate.
Can you be on every show from now on? You need to be my hype man, Jason.
Well, you know what the funniest was? It was so funny. I remember one time, I won't say who, but a guest who is, let's just say, very anti-DRM.
Yes.
And I got into it.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm not going to use Audible because it has DRM. And I was
like,
listen, I'm an author. You're an author. You know, a little DRM is like what's required by the publishing industry. So just pay the $10. You don't need to have the DRM. It's a reasonable thing. And if you really want to, you could buy the book, get a tape recorder and record it yourself. And then you publish it without we got into it.
He still, by the way, does not use Audible.
I mean,
and he's going to be on Intelligent Machines on Wednesday, but we won't say who.
We won't say who, but he has a new book out, and
he does have a new book out, Picks and Shovels. It's quite good. You should read Picks and Shovels. It's really good.
I think he's a great thinker. I'm glad he exists in the world, but not good for an Audible ad read.
He doesn't agree. He doesn't agree.
This is who we're talking about.
Yeah.
He's got very strong beliefs about the DRM.
And I love him for that. Oh, by the way, highly recommend. Ars Technica had a very good piece today talking about Butch and Suni. Remember, Butch and Suni were the astronauts who got stuck on the ISS. Ridiculous. Turns out that Boeing Starliner wasn't that good at all to begin with. So the piece is by Eric Berger, who is, it turns out, a friend of Butch's. There's Butch Wilmore getting welcomed back because they got home thanks to your buddy Elon, whose Starliner took them home.
Yeah.
But the Boeing craft that brought them, not so hot. The story is incredible. Highly recommended. It's at Ars Technica. I guess because they're friends, Berger got Butch to talk about the real issues that happened. They lost thrusters.
That's not good.
They were sitting there, and in fact, NASA's rules at one point, they're sitting within feet of the International Space Station, but their thrusters have gone out. NASA's rules were you come back home if you lose this many thrusters. 4 thrusters, you come back home. And they decided to stay, and they were able to maneuver it and get docked, but it was pretty hairy. And one thing Butch Wilmore said, which I think really is important, is the heroes at NASA's mission control. Now, this was a Boeing launch, but they agreed to contract mission control at Johnson Space Center in Houston to fly Starliner. So flight director Ed Van Cise, it's 15 years he's been flight director for NASA. Wilmore said, thankfully, these folks are heroes. And please print this. What do heroes look like? Well, heroes put their tank on and they run into fiery buildings and pull people out of it. That's a hero. But heroes also sit in their cubicle for decades, studying their systems and knowing their systems front and back. And when there is no time to assess a situation and go and talk to people and ask, what do you think? They know their system so well, they come up with a plan on the fly. And that is a hero. And there are several of them in mission control.
Wow.
Really amazing story. I won't spoil it for you, but I highly recommend it. Fantastic interview. Eric Berger got it for Ars Technica.
Good reminder for people that competition amongst these providers to our government is a great thing. Having a single provider means complacency, that's the thing that's really changed. We talked about weapons systems earlier. The providers would just do overruns because they get paid what's called cost plus. They get paid a certain amount to, whatever the cost of it is to build, plus a little extra. That doesn't lead to the best outcomes. Capitalism, all of this competition, and having multiple vendors, that's so critical.
Although, I'm just going to say it, your pal Elon has just done some big contracts. SpaceX is now the military's top launch provider. And this is where, it might have been better if Elon hadn't been so involved in government, because then you could say, oh, congratulations, well done, you earned this.
Well, He does provide
who else is going to do it?
And it's 90% cheaper now.
That's true. And yet Bezos isn't going to do it, even though Blue Origin is starting to move in that direction. And obviously Boeing is the wrong
Do you know who we gave our money to before SpaceX? Russia.
That's right. That's right.
We were
having Russia do those launches
before this. So
yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to go down with the SpaceX ship because I really love the company because it's lowering the price of me getting to space at some point in time. But
you want to go? Really?
Oh, strap me with duct tape. Let's fricking go to space.
Okay, but I saw that you're starving and you're eating candy now, so I just want to suggest...
Stop reading the chat.
Get used to space food, okay? Before you... What are you eating? Don't eat that. It's going to make you even hungrier.
These are Trader Joe's peanut M&M knockoffs that I'm waiting to eat when the show's over. Okay,
you can eat... We're on our last story, so start eating your peanut M&Ms.
I want to go back to the point about SpaceX.
Okay, good.
Because I think that there is a lot of things we can criticize Doge about. No matter your politics, you can talk about it however you want. But when it comes to American space dominance, there's one name right now. I can't wait until Jeff Bezos' company is competing with Elon, launch for launch, dollar for dollar, kilogram for kilogram. Bring it on. At that point, I'll worry about it. But right now, there's one company in the world that is shooting up, what, Jason, it's like 80% of all rocket launches right now are SpaceX. Of course they're going to get the contract. Who else is doing it? And Boeing,
I guess you're right.
Boeing has squandered decades of public and private largesse with incompetence and mismanagement. And so if Elon makes an extra $50 because Boeing self-immolated, forget what are we going to do? Cry about it? We're going to throw the rockets up with our arms? No. We're going to use.
Where are you? Are you going to go to Mars? Where do you want to go?
You tell me what seat. You pick a rocket. You
wouldn't be satisfied just riding Jeff Bezos's penis, right? You want to go beyond the stratosphere. Well, it looks all right. What do you call it? It's a
rocket.
Phallic. Rockets are phallic because of gravity and whatnot.
Yeah, but his is more phallic than most.
It is more phallic than most. This is TWiT After Hours.
It is.
This is TWiT After Hours. That's right.
Asteroid,
it is. We are after hours. We're overtime.
TWiT overtime. Grange points. Neptune, Mercury, Mars.
Anywhere. You'll go anywhere.
A rocket. I am a science fiction nerd in my DNA. I have been reading about this since I was tiny. I want to go. I don't care where. I'll go on a Boeing rocket. Let's go. I'll blow up. Let's do it.
All right. I'm sorry I said that about Jeff's rocket.
It's okay. This means we're an hour 3.
It's very long. It's very long. Big. Yes. Do you tell me what you know about the word Bufferbloat? Does that ring a bell at all?
I could take a guess at it, but I've never heard that term.
Believe it or not, you owe a debt of gratitude to a man named Dave Taut, who passed away yesterday. One of the unsung heroes of the internet. This is Eric S. Raymond writing on X. Dave, known on X as M. Taut, Mtaht, because his birth name was Michael, a true hacker of the old school who touched the lives of everybody using X. His work on mitigating Bufferbloat improved practical TCP/IP performance tremendously, especially around video streaming and other applications requiring low latency. Without him, Netflix and similar services might still be plagued by glitches and stutters. The problem occurred because RAM got so cheap that router manufacturers started building in extra memory into their routers, which had, unfortunately, the consequence of slowing routers down. Dave discovered this. He called it Bufferbloat. He even wrote a tool that let people find out how much Bufferbloat their router had and was able to convince router companies, you need to fix this. Raymond says, Dave should have been famous. He should have been rich. If he had a cent for every dollar of value he generated in the world, he probably could have bought the entire country of Nicaragua and had enough left over to finance a space program. He joked about wanting to do the latter, but I don't think he was actually joking, Alex. But he wasn't Elon Musk and he wasn't Eric S. Raymond. He didn't want to run a business and he didn't want the crap that came from being Mr. Famous Guy. So a beautiful, I thought, eulogy to a man that probably many people never heard of, and they may not even have heard about Bufferbloat. They would have if Dave Taut hadn't fixed it for us all. David Taut passed away this week.
We all stand on the shoulders of giants who built things and maintained them and often gave them away for free.
It's true.
Yeah. Shout out to everyone who builds open source anything. Just in general. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, we all should be. I agree. And maybe that is the thing that here's a picture of Dave playing his guitar. He was famous for he would write songs about SpaceX, actually.
Oh, wow.
Just
good for him.
In case you're curious.
It's all come full circle.
Yeah. He founded the Bufferbloat project with Jim Geddes, ran a couple of projects around it, refereed the Bufferbloat mailing list. A great mailing list, by the way.
And only 59.
Wow. Yeah, he was a young guy.
Young guy, man.
59 is way too young.
Yeah. So
isn't it amazing? Like
he fixed it.
Our grandparents and their parents would die at this age, and now we see somebody pass away at 59, and we're like, oh my God, so young, And
isn't it amazing? Yeah.
Well, we stopped smoking inside. Back to your earlier point about cigars. Turns out that and no-leaded gasoline.
Just think about, what technology has done for mitigating cancer. I mean, cancer was just a death sentence, but 50 years ago, and now
I think we're going to cure cancer in my lifetime. God, I hope so.
We've certainly mitigated it. I tell you that.
Yeah,
and these GLPs, if you look at the what do they call it? The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse or whatever it is. It's like diabetes, and heart disease and everything and obesity. It's really having a dramatic impact on all of that. So
can you talk to my doctor and ask him to write me a prescription for Ozempic?
What you can do is even better than Ozempic is compounding pharmacy.
Compounding, you can't do that anymore because the FDA said there's no shortage of Ozempic anymore.
You can get Mounjaro, you can get it all. I get it from a compounding pharmacy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Him's stock tumbled when the FDA said you can't compound it anymore. But there are compounding pharmacies that make semi-glutide GLP-1 antagonists.
All of these seem to, I've done 4 different ones now. I am super
do they all work? So there's Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy,
Mounjaro, I think, is in escalating steps, and then there's the new one's Reta, RETA something.
And do they all have the same? You've done them all. Do they all have the same effect?
Have. And no,
are they party drugs? Do you go to raves or?
Absolutely. Just everybody, you buy a bunch of donuts and then you take Ozempic and you just look at them and go, I'm not interested.
I wish I could find this. I think it was a Substack post.
Yeah.
But he said, look, the widespread use now of these GLP-1 drugs is doing more than just helping with diabetes and weight loss. It is actually getting rid of impulse buys, and it's going to dramatically change our economy because so much of our economy is based on late night purchases on Instagram. That really
and late night eating. I mean, that was my
late night
when
eating.
I look back on how I gained all the weight. I would just do
smoking, addiction.
All the good stuff. And it definitely does change your brain, where I didn't realize the amount of food noise I was experiencing. I thought about food constantly. I loved food. I thought about it constantly. Now I think about it once in a while, but I could eat 4 or 5 slices of pizza. Now I'm just I eat a slice of pizza and I don't even look at the second one. It's just crazy for a kid from Brooklyn who I was in a war to see how many slices of pizza I could eat.
Yeah, me too.
Before my brothers got in there, we would be.
But you can't ever go off it now, right, Jason?
I have gone off of it multiple times. I cycle on and off, and I always the same thing. I gain back 2 to 7 pounds, but I don't gain back 40 or 50. So I do think it is.
One of the reasons it's not recommended for people over 65, which include me, and I am a type 2 diabetic, so I would love to do this, is thyroid problems, heart issues, that kind of thing.
I think you have to. What I did was I balanced being obese, which I had tipped over into, shockingly, for somebody who ran marathons my whole life. And that just
shows you exercise does not fix this problem.
I think at a certain point, if you've gained so much weight, when you get past 30, 40, 50 pounds, it's just too hard to get it off.
Yeah.
And that was the problem I had. And then what I found was once I had gotten off the first 20, I started to want to work out more. My sciatica down my leg went away.
Right.
My sleeping got better. Everything just got better. And then I started skiing again. And then I started doing 10 days of skiing, 20, 30, 40 days of skiing a year. And, here I am. And now I like to lift weights and I don't feel the need to eat as much food.
You look fantastic.
What's most important is how I feel. I feel better. I feel a lot better. I sleep better. I don't have the sciatica. I feel better about myself. When I see myself on camera, I'm just like, you know what? I feel better. And I don't think you have to have too much pride about it. Like, oh, I have to do it naturally. It turns out some people just have more of this GLP.
It's pretty hard to do
in
it
their
naturally.
System.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And the whole system's
I spent my whole life dieting. Yeah.
I know you have. You and I both have had conversations about this so many times. I think a low dose.
Plus, now that I'm making bagels every week, I'm really in trouble.
I did see that. You're in your sourdough era?
I have figured out how to make a perfect New York bagel.
What?
And that is not a good thing.
That's dangerous. Well, I mean, how many, to be honest, how many bagels in a sitting do you eat? Are you on
No, I never eat more than one. But the problem is it makes a dozen. Fortunately, I've found takers. And if you guys live nearby, I would, but you're in Providence. I can't.
Have you heard of FedEx, Leo? It exists.
Yeah, I was thinking of FedExing my mom some, so maybe I send you both.
What kind of bagel? Do you make an egg bagel? You make poppy seeds?
I make a standard sourdough bagel, but the key, you got to boil it. And I've tried different, the official ways to boil it in lye.
What?
Which is, so I bought a bottle of food grade lye, which is also labeled drain opener. And it has a big skull and crossbones on it. And you have to wear eye protection when you use it, but you don't use very much. You use 5 grams per liter of water. And that's how pretzels and bagels get browned, by the way. They're boiled in lye. But my preference is to boil it in malt barley syrup, which is sweet and delicious, and it browns it.
Guys, what happened to the show? What are we doing right
show. I'm sorry.
Leo and Jay Cal on a table.
I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Jason, I miss you. Will you come back soon? I know you're a big star and everything, but
whatever. Come on.
Our advertisers are demanding that you show up for every show.
Anytime.
Every show now. Host of the All In podcast. He's an angel investor, of course, this week in startups. What else do you want to promote? Anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, I'm really proud of the work Alex is doing on This Week in Startups. The audience loves them, and it just creates it's great to have a great point guard. He's just so good at on the fly, having all the facts together.
He does that, what Joe Rogan's producer does, right? Joe will say, hey, what is that? And
plus. I think having somebody who can lay the foundation for you and set the play up and then let you freestyle. It's kind of like, when you're a broadcaster, you have the person who's calling the game and then you have the color commentary. Just
He's your color guy.
No, I'm the color guy. He's the guy who sets it up. Like, hey, we're coming up the court. Here we are. And then he sets the pick for me and then I can shoot the ball. And it takes a lot of load off of me, You do both here. You give your commentary.
I need a point guard. I need somebody. To do the rebounds.
As we get older, it's hard to tee up every story, isn't it? Yeah. It's hard to tee up every story.
Jamie Vernon is young Jamie on Joe Rogan, and so
Jamie,
Alex,
look that up.
You're his young Jamie. Yeah, I did because I don't listen. Yeah. So I just want to be very clear about that.
Virtual signaling.
I have no idea what happens on the Joe Rogan.
When he has comedians on, it's great.
Yes. Well, he's a comedian.
Yes.
My son loves him. Young men love him. He's in the what is it called? The manosphere.
Manosphere.
I am in the non-manosphere.
Yeah.
Along with this wonderful guy right here, Mr. Alex Wilhelm, who is a daddy, a husband, and a great writer. How's it? Are you glad you're not at TechCrunch now that they're owned by somebody? Who bought them? Somebody else bought them.
Oh, it's some private equity.
They own ZDNet and all those collection of assets from the old days, which I think means this thing is going to die a slow death.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
and Yahoo didn't sell Engadget. I'm trying to talk to Jim Lanzone about selling it back to me.
Yeah. That's right. They bought Weblogs Inc. from you, didn't they?
They bought AOL did. Then AOL got bought by Yahoo or merged with Yahoo and this private equity firm. My friend Jim Lanzone, who ran CNET for many years, he was running it. But for some reason, I guess they were just fed up with TechCrunch. I think TechCrunch was hard to manage.
Because Kevin bought Dig back. Would you buy back Engadget?
100% I would buy it back, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about TikTok? How do you feel about TikTok?
Whoa,
That's a little beyond
hold on. Jason, if you buy Engadget, can I run it?
Yes. 100%.
Why would you want to get into a dying business, Jason?
Well, no, what I would do is I would reconceptualize it around the new mediums that are out there. Yeah. It's a great brand. It means a lot to people.
It does.
But, you'd have to think, how would young people consume Engadget today, which means probably shorts. And if you look at what Marquez does, I think he is, what Marquez does on his YouTube channel.
Marquez Brownlee, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of what like he's kind of like one of the kids of Engadget, right? Like he grew up on Engadget.
That's right. That's right.
So, I grew up on, you and Dvorak and PC Magazine. So we're all
dude, like, you're not that young.
Well, no, I'm
not
10
that
years
old.
younger. I think
guess.
I'm 10 years younger than you, and then he's 20 years younger than both.
Yeah, I guess it's the next generation, isn't it?
You kind of are the next generation. So you got to think, well, where do they hang out? They hang out on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and stuff.
There seems like somebody like you, somebody sharp who's really thinking about what is happening with media should be owning some of these properties and steer them in the right direction.
There's two ways to go. You either have to reinvent them.
Yep.
Or you're just going to grind them out to get like whatever.
Well, that's
nickels.
What the private equity guys do.
And that's what they're doing. The private equity guys are just grinding them down. And like, that's why you see on
they're red. I call it red lobstering them.
Yes. You basically have to lower the costs and then you have to increase the revenue. And then what that means is the soul is kind of wrung out of it. Like they're going to wring the soul out of it. And that's the problem with media is you need to have an impresario who cares about it. You need to have Peter Rojas. You need to have Leo Laporte. You need to have you, Alex, on Cautious Optimism. You need to have somebody who actually cares and is the standard bearer for the brand promise. And what private equity does is they just say, lower the costs and wring every dollar out, which means that what they're going to do is put like, here are the top 10 waffle makers on TechCrunch to get the affiliate link. You see how many people are like top 10 waffles.
It's sad. Yeah.
And that was great for Wirecutter, but that wasn't Engadget's business.
Everybody's done it now. Everybody's
done it now. It just becomes an affiliate SEO
Plus, they're all copying each other's articles. Jeff Jarvis makes this point all the time. If you do a search for an article, it's all the same article reproduced in 100 tech meme. You look at the headline and then there's 50 other publications of the same article.
Yes, and it's just a race to the bottom, and it's what happened at Engadget was people would reblog us, and they would not have to do the original reporting, and then they could spend more time on SEO.
Right.
So then they would beat us, and it was like, oh my God, how do I beat this? And it was by having a soul. No, if you have a soul, people will come to the original because they want the real, authentic, uncompromised thing.
Right.
That's what
why
I've
I
learned.
think The Verge's paywall is going to work because The Verge does have a soul. They have a raft of people that people really.
They have Nilay. That's the story there.
Yeah, an absolute cornerstone of The Verge. Yeah. But I should go check on make sure all the kids been down.
Go have some.
There's two in the
have some chocolate covered peanuts.
All right.
I will. Thank you,
Jason, Alex. Love you. We'll see you soon. Thank you all for joining us. We do TWiT you guys can leave now while I do the business part of the show.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.
Leo,
we do TWiT every Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 2100 UTC. As I mentioned earlier, you can watch us live. You don't have to. But if you want to be in the chat room and chat along and participate, you can watch us. If you're in the club, $7 a month gets you access to Club TWiT. And then you get the Discord. You can watch there. But it's free for everybody on YouTube, Twitch, X.com, TikTok, Kick, Facebook, and LinkedIn. 8 different ways to watch. After the fact, all of our shows can be downloaded from our website, twit.tv. All of our shows have a dedicated YouTube channel if you want to watch the video. We do that because it makes it easy for you to share little clips. Sometimes something happens. You think, gosh, my friend Bobby would love to see that. Send it along to them. It's great. It spreads the word about our shows. And you can also subscribe in your favorite podcast client and get it automatically. There's audio and video. Usually ships, a few hours after we finish the show. Do me a favor, though. If you do that, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app, whether it's iTunes or Google or wherever you get your podcast from. That helps us spread the word a lot. If you're not a member of the club, $7 a month, twit.tv/clubtwit. We've got some great stuff coming up in the club, special club exclusives. And of course, you get ad-free versions of all the shows. Was this fun? I think it was fun. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time. Another TWiT is in the can. Bye-bye.
This is amazing.
Doing the TWiT. All right. Doing the TWiT, baby. Doing the TWiT. All right.
So who's the sponsor?
Audible.
Audible. Oh, how I love Audible.
You don't have to say that, Jason.
No, I do. I have an Audible account. Hey, this is Jason Calacanis, the CEO of Mahalo.com and formerly of Weblogs Inc. and Silicon Hour Reporter. I'd like to let you know about a service that I use and I love, Audible. Audible.com. The largest collection of audiobooks on the internet, all with simple, easy to use, non-DRM MP3 files.
It is DRM. No, it is DRM.
You're making me sick, you know.
I'm not paying you any more, Jason, just because you're doing this. You understand that?
Nothing from nothing is nothing. with the lightest DRM package that you
That's
can
good.
use.
Yes, there you go.
Easy to use DRM.
You can burn to CD, so I mean,
and burn to CD and rip, so you don't have any DRM, and you can send to your friends on BitTorrent.
Oh, this is
just make sure when you buy a book from Audible, you get Star Swarm by Jerry Purnell.
That is, in fact, our book pick